Good evening, everyone. We'll begin this meeting by acknowledging the continuing connection of Aboriginal people to country, culture and community, including traditional custodians of this land, the Wadundji and Kaniang people of the Noongar Nation, paying respects to elders past and present. And I declare the meeting open at 5 p.m. A reminder that this meeting is being live streamed and digitally recorded in accordance with Council Policy EM-CP2. Members of the public are reminded that no other visual or audio recording of this meeting by any other means is allowed without the permission of the chairperson. While every endeavour has been made to only record those who are actively participating in the meeting, loud comments or noises may be picked up in the recording. Attending tonight, we have Councillor Alexis Davey, Councillor Grant Patrick, Councillor Lisa Glover, Councillor Anita Lindeman, Councillor John Bailey and Councillor Anne Mitchell, and myself, Councillor McCarthy. Staff present this evening are Mr Nick O'Connor, our Chief Executive Officer, Mr Ross Marshall, Director of Operations, Sam Farquhar, Administration Officer, Corporate Services, and do we have planning tonight? No, okay. I'd like to welcome everyone attending in the public gallery and also welcome everyone participating via the live stream. At this point, would councillors like to move to suspend clause 8.2, members to rise, of Meeting Procedures Local Law 2017 as standing interferes with the sound quality of the live stream and recording? Councillor Lindeman, Councillor Patrick, all in favour? Moving on to item 2.1, apologies, we have none. And at item 2.2, we have an approved leave of absence from our council meeting held 23rd of July 25, where we resolved to approve Councillor Peter Gubler's request for leave of absence from the 20th to the 28th of August. At 2.3, applications for leave of absence. Do councillors have any requests for leave of absence? No? Just a moment.
Just in regards to 2.1, there's an apology if you'd like to mention that.
Just stepping back to item 2.1, apologies, we should recognise that Acting Director of Finance and Corporate, Lauren Clifford, is an apology for this evening. At item 3, we have no announcements this evening. And at item 4, Division 6, Subdivision 1 of the Local Government Act 1995 speaks to declarations of interest and states that care should be taken by all councillors, committee members and staff to ensure that a financial or impartiality interest is declared and that they refrain from voting on any matter which is considered to come within the ambit of the Act. Councillor Anita Lindeman has declared a proximity interest regarding item 12.1.2, and Councillor Lindeman will leave the room when we get to that item. And Councillor Anne Mitchell declared an impartiality interest regarding item 9.3.1. And you have submitted forms, haven't you? Thank you. Moving on to item 5, public question time. Councillor Davey?
I don't have a formal declaration of interest, but I do want to note, similar to that I did last meeting, that the item regarding Gardner Road, I have a property on that road, so I just wanted it noted for people online and in the room.
Which item number was that, Councillor?
Public question time, so it's not a formal declaration of interest, it's just a disclosure.
So are you comfortable through you, Chair, for us to put the same disclosure content as we had previously on that one? Yep.
5.1, responses to previous public questions that were taken on notice. We'll take these as read. They appear in the agenda and will also appear in the minutes. Councillor Glover?
The screen over that side there for the people attending isn't got the agenda on it, it's only got the attachments on. And so because some people have asked for an agenda, all they can see is just the attachments. I'm wondering if that could be corrected for the people in the gallery.
Thank you, Councillor Glover.
It's a blank screen.
Let's take a little while, just give it
With everything.
Thank you. Good pick up on Councillor Glover. Okay. Moving on to 5.2, public question time. Would anyone from the gallery like to ask questions? I believe Mr. Ringe would like to ask a question. Thank you. Would you like to come up to the podium, Mr. Ringe?
Thank you, Madam President. My question regards the asset optimisation that's been mooted. Over a long period of time, I've been party to 3 lots of providing public open space. And I understand that some of that now is going to be sold, one item in particular. My question is, what will the proceeds be used for? In principle, I'm not totally opposed to the sale of the land, but I am of the opinion also that exchange one asset for another. And the question I have for you is, what will the proceeds be used for? I think, once again, back to one asset for another.
Thank you, Mr. Ringe. I will ask CEO to respond to that.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Shire President. Thank you, Mr. Ringe, for your question. I draw councillors and the public gallery's attention to, in the actual item 9.3.1, the background section there details the previous council resolutions, and it states at its ordinary council meeting 28th of May 2025, as a whole heap of limbs, this is when we first introduced the asset optimisation project and provided, I guess, the broader strategic and policy context for embarking on that program of works. And limb number 4 to that resolution that was passed states that the council notes that proceeds from the proposed sale of the land parcels and freehold property as detailed in the body of the report are to be constrained and allocated to 1 or 4.1, addressing the asset sustainability funding shortfall detailed in Shire's asset management and long-term financial plan. And 4.2, supporting future studies, projects or reviews that enhance the Shire's financial sustainability, e.g. Victory Lane Master Plan.
Did you catch all that, Mr.
No, I
Ringe?
didn't, but that's not your fault. My hearing's not the best.
No, we can.
And I have an adjustment for my hearing aids and I left my phone at home, so I can't do it. But look...
we can go through that again if you like.
No, don't do that. But the other question, or part of that question, is, of course, that it was public open space. So I feel that proceeds of that land probably should go to public open space. And I say it's been on 3 occasions I've been involved with the provision of public open space in subdivision, and I would like to see those public open spaces maintained or maybe moved, but still be land for public open space. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ringe. What we'll do is
I can write.
the CEO will write that response and send it off to you.
Okay then.
And yeah,
Thank you.
all right.
Right, cheers.
Thank you for your patience. Would anyone else like to ask a question this evening? Thank you. That brings us to item 6, presentations, and we have no petitions tonight, but we do have quite an important presentation, and this is for a very long-serving employee who isn't able to be here with us tonight, but I understand is watching via live stream. Russell Jones, as I say, couldn't join us here in person tonight, but we can hold up this certificate of appreciation, which recognises, get you to hold that, CEO, which recognises Russell's nearly 50 years of loyal and dedicated service. He's provided strong leadership and an outstanding work ethic. Since starting Russell's career with the Shire as a 21-year-old general hand through to now, his example of how he's worked on his job wasn't just that he did the job, it was because he helped shape a community. And the legacy that Russell has built will be felt in this community for generations. Russell has and always will be an inspiration to us all, and it's been an honour for all to work alongside Russell. On behalf of the Shire, we wish you the best for your future and offer our sincerest gratitude and appreciation for everything that Russell has given to Council, to staff and to our community. Did you?
Yeah.
And I believe that's Russell in the
That's
foreground
Russell, yeah. Yep.
with a nice 70s hair.
And Shire President, I don't know Russell that well, but I reckon he'll be sitting at home with a tear in his eye. So there you go for those words.
Thank you. Councillor Mitchell.
If I may, can I also acknowledge Russell's long-term and contribution to the fire and rescue service, bearing in mind his children went through and grew up and were driving, and he never knew who he was going to find out on the fire and rescue. So, and yes, I understand the Shire was very supportive in that, but it was also extremely important.
Wonderful.
And a huge contribution. Thank you.
Thanks, Anne. Okay. And at 6.3, deputations. It brings us to a deputation by Mr Ian Massey, and he's presenting on behalf of the Donnybrook Balingup Chamber of Commerce and Industry. There you are. If you'd like to come up to the podium, Mr Massey.
We do have a PowerPoint presentation as well. So.
Oh, we have a presentation for you to work to.
Sorry?
Yep.
You have a presentation to work to.
Mm-hmm.
Just a moment while we get that set up.
Sure.
All good? Maybe. So Ian, we're happy if you just give a nod. We can drive it. Just give a nod to the next slide.
Okay.
Yeah.
No worries. Well, thank you very much, Madam President. It's not often I have the privilege of standing in a pulpit, but I'm not here to preach to you. And although this is called a deputation, because apparently it's called a deputation, I'm not here to encourage you to take or not take any particular action. And I'm certainly not here with my hand out asking for money. I'm here at President McCarthy's original suggestion, I think, just to talk to you, councillors, about our role as a Chamber of Commerce, a local Chamber of Commerce, and how the landscape looks to me as President of that Chamber. So I know you're busy people. I'm very grateful for the gift of your time. I hope to take no more of it than I deserve. And with that, can we have the next slide, please? So briefly, me, I think, probably known to most of you, but my name is Ian Massey. I'm here as President of the Donnybrook Balingup Chamber of Commerce. I'm just about to complete my second year in that role, and I will be offering myself for a third year, and then that may be that. I've been a resident of the Shire for damn near 20 years. Bailed out of Perth with my then wife to some acreage we had near Balingup. I'm a total Balingup tragic. that town, that community was so welcoming and so supportive from when we first began to live there. And one of the things I love is the community and the way that community works together. So I'm in the process of building a house in Balingup. With a bit of luck, I'll end my days there. I'm also a volunteer bushfire fighter. I'm second lieutenant and treasurer of the Balingup Bushfire Brigade. And in the afternoons, I'm a business advisor and consultant, trading under the name of Upland Consulting and working in the areas of strategy, governance and risk. Next, please. So that's me. The Chamber of Commerce itself, I thought we might usefully take a little step back, because what we are part of as a local Chamber of Commerce is in fact a very ancient and very well established and very widespread movement of chambers of commerce. This is a definition of what a Chamber of Commerce does that I took from the website of one of them. It's our role to, first of all, focus locally and independently, but secondly, to use that role to advance common interests in business by improving the business environment, fostering business growth, and advocating for policies favourable to business. I said it's an ancient movement, the Chamber of Commerce movement. The first one we know about was founded in Marseille in France in 1599. The first one in Australia was Sydney in 1826, and I would just point out that's 3 years before the founding of the Swan River colony. South Australia, I believe, was the second one in Australia, and our own Chamber of Commerce and Industry in WA was founded in 1890 by a group of users of the then Fremantle jetty. It was before the harbour was constructed, who were finding the movement of freight was too slow and expensive. So we're part of a long and I must say proud tradition. If I could have the next slide, please. However, this is what people think we do. This is Adam Smith, the great Scottish Enlightenment economist. Of course, we gather in dark corners and conspire against the interests of the public. Adam Smith, by the way, is now called an economist. He would have thought of himself in modern terms as a moral philosopher. And it's my personal conviction that that is correct. I see economics as a branch of applied ethics. And the role of economics is to help us as communities to allocate scarce resources in the best way. So next, please. This is what we actually do. This is straight from our constitution. I'm sorry, it's pretty text heavy. You don't really need to read the whole thing, but the task, the job given us by our constitution is to offer leadership in the development of local businesses and the local business scene, to help create opportunities for connection, for networking, and for an environment in which businesses can grow and flourish, to assist in improving people's skills as business owners and business managers, to conduct benevolent projects. We're a little bit constrained at the moment with those, but we have and we will again. And most importantly this evening, I guess, to foster dialogue amongst the business community and all levels of government, starting with yourselves. The next, please. So as I said, this is near the end of my second year as president. When I took on the job, I set 2 primary tasks for my term as president. In the first place, I wanted to grow and broaden our membership. First of all, grow. We have a little over 100 members, a little over 100 of the local businesses. There are something over 700 within the Shire, so we've got a lot of growing to do yet, a lot of opportunity. But secondly, I think it's also important that we broaden our membership. The high street businesses in retail, cafes, arts and crafts, that kind of thing, are overrepresented amongst our membership, and the primary producers are underrepresented. And those are imbalances that I'm trying to correct as president. The other thing, the second thing that I set myself as a priority for my term as president, is to foster and continue to develop a working relationship with the Shire, which so far is going well. I think we have an open and growing sense of pretty much working the same way on a lot of the same issues. We've never promised to agree with the Shire on everything, and I don't expect we ever will, but it is turning into a very constructive business relationship. We have a standing invitation for President McCarthy and CEO O'Connor to attend our committee meetings, and they very often do, and thank you for doing so. I see that the Shire as our local government authority and the Chamber of Commerce have complementary and usually supportive roles in fostering the kind of business environment that we're looking at in the previous slide. Next one, thanks. So here are just some of our recent and current projects. We do more things than this, and I'm happy to talk about them, but just to give you a flavour, we publish an annual business directory. Any business in the Shire, member or not, can buy advertising in that directory. We distribute it for free. We actually use a lot of the same distribution points as the Preston Press. We've published about 2,500 last year, and they were all taken up pretty quickly. We're looking at the possibility of printing more this year, another 300 or so. So it's popular, it works, it actually more than pays for itself. And 2 minutes, thank you. Businesses who are members get a discount on the advertising rate in there, but anyone can advertise. Shop Local, the Customer Service Award, they're probably self-explanatory. The Right Staff was a series of information sessions we put on for employment opportunities within the Shire. And we will in a few weeks be again hosting Meet the Candidates events, one in Donnybrook, one in Balingup. Next one, thanks. I have some statistics and I'll just go through these very quickly just to show you what I think our landscape is like here. The median age is the one that I would point out here. The median age of 49 means that half of our Shire's population is in their 50s or beyond. So we have that as a fact of life. Next slide, please. This is the number of employees, number of businesses by employee count size. This is year by year. The darker shades are moving us up to the present. You can see that there are an enormous number of single-person businesses who employ no one but the owner. And it drops down very sharply as soon as we get to larger businesses. So I think we have an opportunity together to see if we can move some of those businesses further to the right along the scale and help them grow. The next one, please. This is the same idea, but this time we have broken down the businesses by turnover instead of employee numbers. And it's possibly a slightly more encouraging picture because all the categories up to $2 million turnover are pretty well represented and their numbers are holding up pretty well, even during the COVID years. We're never going to see large numbers of much larger businesses than that. But at 2 million turnover, a business has typically got some resilience and some capacity to innovate. It's a good size for a small local business. And finally, I'm more than happy to take any questions. There is, I think there's one more. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Mr Massey. Do councillors have any questions? Councillor Lindeman.
Thanks. Through the chair, thank you to Mr Massey. My question. Do you have data, are you collecting data in regards to, say, things like events in the Shire? What sort of money comes in, where do they spend it, the age groups that are coming in, and obviously working with the Shire on the calendar of events and how that impacts and prepares businesses in the Shire for those events?
Yeah, thanks, Councillor. It's a very important source of business for our local businesses when we have events in the Shire. And one of the things that we've done this year is to publicise on our own website upcoming events and encourage local traders and suppliers to take advantage of those. And I hope in partnership with the Shire we can take it further to attracting more events to Shire as well. We have some really good places for events, and it's very important because they do bring large sums of money, and if we're clever, we can get quite a lot of that money to stick with local traders. Thanks.
Any other questions? Councillor Mitchell?
Thank you. The data, and sorry, you probably said it and I missed it, was that over the Shire or the businesses within Donnybrook? Or was it Donnybrook Bay? Was it Shire data? Shire data.
It was Shire data, Councillor, yes, from the Australian Bureau of Statistics.
Thank you.
Although I'm a Baling Up tragic,
Yeah.
this is the Shire of Baling Up Donnybrook.
Yeah, yeah, I did get the fact that it was ABS, but I wasn't sure whether it was data or town related. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Any other questions, councillors? No? Thank you very much, Mr. Is that a question?
Thank you, Madam President.
No, thank you very much, Mr. Massey.
I'm getting my thumb drive back.
Okay. At item 6.4, we don't have any delegates' reports, which brings us to adoption by exception. And councillors, we have a recommendation in front of you. Would someone like to move that we adopt the following items en bloc and resolve in accordance with each of the executive recommendations? Councillor Lindeman and Councillor Mitchell. All in favour? Carried. Councillor Glover.
May I just make a suggestion for the people in the gallery who may have come in to actually look at a specific item, what that resolution might have been for that item that we've just passed, because
I
I
will
think
work
there's...
through the items in the agenda as I go through.
Oh, okay, sure. Not the ones that are passed on block?
I always go through and say they're on block. We'll be fine. Thank you. Okay, so at item 7, we have confirmation of minutes. And at 7.1, we have approved this item en bloc and relates to the ordinary council meeting minutes of the meeting that was held on the 23rd of July 2025. At item 7.1.2, the special council meeting that was held on 6th of August 2025 was also approved en bloc, as was item 7.1.3, which was a special meeting of council held on the 13th of August 2025, approved en bloc. Which moves us into item 8, reports of committees. At 8.1.1, the South West Regional Road Group meeting was also approved en bloc. And at item 8.1.2, the Local Emergency Management Committee meeting was approved en bloc. Which brings us to item 8.1.3, the Audit and Risk Management Committee meeting. This item will be considered by council. A moment. Would councillors like to move the executive recommendation that council receive the minutes from the Audit and Risk Management Committee meeting held on the 31st of July 2025 and adopt the recommendations as detailed in the minutes and summarised in items 6.1 to 7.1.5 to be adopted? Councillor Bailey.
Through the chair, I move with an amendment.
Thank you.
Do you have a copy of the amendment there?
Yes, I think the secretary will pop that up in a session. Second. So it's not actually an amendment, Sam. We just put it as number 3. Yep.
That as you want it, John?
Yeah, thank you very much. Do you want me to talk on that now?
We'll just get a seconder first. If you've
Okay.
moved that, would someone like to second that recommendation? Councillor Glover. Councillor Bailey, would you like to speak to the...
Yeah, thank you. Through the chair. Councillors, ladies and gentlemen, this festival is going to be for 2,900 people. And I think there's a lot of risk out there, and I'd like it assessed by the Audit and Risk Committee. And I'd like to see something on a cost-benefit risk analysis. And that would give us, assist the above, which is the Council and the Audit and Risk Committee, to decide if the project is worth doing by weighing what we will spend, what we will gain, and what could go wrong. So that's the reason for the amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Councillor Bailey. Councillor Glover, would you like to speak to the motion?
Sure, I'll speak to this motion as well in regard to it's always good to review risk and to ascertain whether we are able to cover the risk and to make sure that all make sure that we're protected in regard to the Shire of Donnybrook Barlingup.
Thank you, Councillor Glover. Just a moment, please.
We probably just need to mention, as per the briefing beforehand, it's going to be very unlikely that staff are going to be in a position to provide an informed decision.
So do we have a motion?
You do, but I'm just saying that the staff may not have the full assessment of the application for the 3rd of September. Yep.
Thank you. I'll just ask the CEO to make comment.
Yep. So thanks very much, Chair, and through you, and I'm certainly not stepping into the debate, but just for councillors' awareness, you'd be aware that there was a verbal briefing and update provided by the manager who's assessing or in charge of assessing the application. So obviously council has received the application. I just want to place on record it's highly unlikely, or it could be an eventuality that that staff may not have finished their full assessment and they may not be in a position to provide a fully informed response or discussion should the extraordinary ARMC go ahead on the 3rd of September. However, if indeed this matter or this motion does get up, staff will use their best endeavours to provide an update as to where they're at with the assessment of the report.
Thank you, CEO. Just a moment, Councillor Bailey. Councillor Lindeman, are you looking to ask a question or debate?
I was actually going to just mention that I did send through an amendment to this amendment.
Thank you.
And it was in reference to the date, taking note that the information would not be provided. So calling a...
Will you raise that when you speak?
I did send it through.
Yep, so would you look?
Yep, I have.
Is she
Okay,
moving an amendment?
thank you. And John, you've spoken to the motion now. Are you asking a question or?
Yes, sorry. Question.
Thank you.
What date would be more suitable for staff?
I think it's through you, Chair. I think it's more comfortable for a week after, for the 10th.
Okay.
But look, my understanding is that the purpose behind this is that the matter is considered by the Audit and Risk Management Committee, and that a copy of the, draft assessment is provided to all councillors prior to the matter actually going up and being formally considered by council. So there's no surprises.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll continue.
Yeah, just excuse me, Councillor Lindeman, what date were you proposing
Excuse me.
with the chair?
We'll let the debate continue and allow Councillor Lindeman to raise. Just a moment, councillors.
Yes,
to raise it.
so Councillor Lindeman may wish to move an amendment, or indeed, if and when she does, it may be that she requests the mover and the seconder of the substantive motion to change that date. And if they're comfortable with that change,
Right.
then
Okay.
there's no need for the amendment.
Okay, Councillor Lindeman.
Yep, I did write in, thank you, through the chair. Just in regards to the date, I put in available by the 10th of September and prior to the agenda briefing on the 17th.
Thank you. Councillor Bailey, are you accepting of that amendment?
If that's going to be better for staff, by all means.
Okay. All right, and Councillor Glover? Yes. Great. So that will become the...
So we'll just pause and we might just get Sam to put the
Okay.
information up there. Yep. Okay.
Taking a pause, councillors, while
Yep.
we catch up.
So do you mind just bringing up the other Councillor Lindeman's proposed amendment, because there was another part of that. Yep. Yeah, bring that other bit up. Yep. Yep. So if I may, Shire President, my understanding was that, that the Audit and Risk Management Committee meeting be held on the 10th, but, and then further discussion or anything to happen prior to the 17th of September, which was is the slated agenda briefing date. So going back, and I don't want to misrepresent, so my understanding that was the intention of your proposed amendment, so I just want to make sure we capture the essence.
Councillors, I recognise this is a new piece of the recommendation that we haven't considered, so I will open it up to questions if you need them. No? Councillor Davey?
Yeah, if we end up needing some flexibility and that can't happen on the 10th, it happens on the 17th immediately prior to the agenda briefing, whatever, are we still meeting the intent of this condition?
What was the last sentence? Sorry? Are we still...
Meeting the intent of the condition if it's not exactly on the 10th of September?
Yeah. So,
Yep. Or we can say no sooner then,
yeah.
not before?
Well, how about, so
Yeah.
as a suggested way forward, let's leave the dates there, and indeed, as I did sort of mention, it is the assessment of this application by staff is a work in progress, so we'll endeavour to keep councillors updated. However, we will need to call an extraordinary meeting of the Audit and Risk Management Committee. So we will go with those dates as a guide, and then test and adjust and inform councillors and the committee accordingly.
Okay. Thank you, CEO. Any further questions? I'll go around the table. No, I'll go this way.
Yeah.
Councillor Mitchell.
Just a quick one, and I'm quite sure I know the answer. However, this is just a business as usual and isn't affected by the caretaker policy.
That is
That's
correct,
correct.
councillor. Yep.
And Councillor Lindeman.
My question is, if the Audit and Risk Committee go through this, read it, do what they do, is there at all the time to do cost-benefit risk analysis? Who does this? Who produces the report? Where does the information? What are they referring to? References, etc. And produce it and bring it back to be considered along with the other information from the staff,
I think
executive
rather
staff.
than a question, it's probably more a debate. So unless you feel you've got a quick answer to that.
I do, yeah, if that's okay with
Okay,
you, Shire
CEO.
President. So I'll take it as a question, and thank you for your question. Can I suggest that the way that the policy or the council's events policy is all about exercising risk management, and the criteria contained within that policy in which officers will undertake the assessment is all about identifying, managing and putting in relevant conditions to mitigate the identified risks. So whether it's a cost benefit, I don't know whether that could be undertaken. However, really the focus and what can reasonably be completed by staff is the finalisation of the application, or the assessment of the application, some draft recommendations or proposed recommendations in order to try and mitigate or address the risk, and then that can be the basis of a discussion at the Audit and Risk Management Committee meeting. And I understand that was the intent of what Councillor Bailey was looking for.
Thank you.
Thank you, CEO. Just give me a minute, please. I've just got to bring my file up again. Apologies, councillors, I'm back. Okay, we have an agreed amendment moved by John Bailey and councillor Glover, and councillor Lindemann has given her amendment and it's been approved. So would someone like to speak against the motion? Councillor Mitchell?
Sorry if you were getting background noise, I had my mic turned on. Yeah, I'm going to speak against the motion because of all the compliance that is undertaken by the officers. It covers every base, but then I believe it will still be coming to council anyway. So we still have to be fully informed, we still have to make a recommendation, and yes, I'd appreciate a few, the risk people looking at it, but in the end, it's our decision, it's our baby, and we actually have to make a decision on it. And yeah, we have in the past not approved things that we didn't approve of because we picked up the risk factors ourselves. So I'm happy, yeah, I'd like to, I will be not supporting this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Mitchell. Would anyone like to speak for the motion? Would anyone like to speak? Sorry, councillor Glover.
Sorry, through the chair. I'm speaking for this motion. I think that it's always good to have checks and balances in place. The Audit and Risk Management Committee are there for a reason, and that is to assess risk as well. So I'd be speaking for this motion.
Thank you, councillor Glover. Anyone speaking for? Against, sorry. Anyone speaking against? Councillor Patrick.
Thank you. Yeah, look, very, very similar to Councillor Mitchell. I think that there seems to be a fixation on this particular event and the risk associated with this event. And if you look at a risk matrix and the potential around the sort of catastrophic events that are sort of referred to previously, I don't personally see that there is such a huge significant risk here. And if there is, I'm very confident that the subject matter experts, which are the officers within the council who are trained and experienced in putting forward the recommendations, will provide us with a more informed response than potentially taking it to an Audit and Risk Committee, which will just incur more work for the administration. As Councillor Mitchell said, I believe it'll be put towards the council in a very well thought out, well planned, well documented report, as everyone we have seen from this administration is, and a decision can be made accordingly at an OCM. Thanks.
Thank you, councillor Patrick. Councillor Davey.
May I ask another question, please?
Question.
My understanding that there was a presentation given by the local government insurance service provider, which I wasn't able to attend, and there was a discussion around the level of public liability that are afforded, that we require events holders to have. I'd just like to understand a little bit more about the outcomes of that, whether that is something that the Audit and Risk Committee needs to consider and therefore justify this item coming to the Audit and Risk Committee before coming here.
Do you want to answer, CEO?
Yeah, so look, thanks very much for your question, Council. I'll answer part of it, and the second part of it is probably more a judgment call for the debate. But in summary, I think there was two main matters that were discussed and raised by Councillor Bailey during the discussion with LGIS. First one was around, as you've correctly touched on, the adequacy of our standard $20 million public liability that has been imposed as a condition of approval for these type of events in the past. The outcome of that, or the advice from LGIS, was that there is a bit of a change in that quantum or that requirement, certainly for higher risk events and activities that threshold or the dollar amount is generally increased from somewhere between 20 and up to $50 million. And I believe the second part of the discussion with LGIS, and of which councillors and some members of the Audit and Risk Committee were present, was around some concerns that should the event go ahead, the vicarious liability of the two neighbours. And there was a suggestion that could be dealt with through a condition of approval, where the event operator or the event organiser indemnifies those neighbouring properties and those landowners. And I'll leave the other part as a judgment call for councillors.
Thank you, CEO. Councillor Lindemann, is you got another question, or are you speaking to the? Okay, well, I'll go to Councillor Lindemann. please.
Pardon me, ironically, I am actually speaking against the motion. And the reason being, I offered the date to appease the people that are very concerned, and I felt that that was necessary if there was no further information, that they needed to feel confident with what they were going to get and that the information would be available. This afternoon, we had Ms Dennis confirm some information and present some further information that has me to believe that it'll be a full and comprehensive report that includes neighbouring issues, etc., easements, liability, insurance, all of those things were covered off. So with that further and new information, I am happy for this to go straight to OCM. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Lindemann. And Councillor Davey?
Yeah, I'd like to speak for this item on the basis that I think it's worth the Audit and Risk Committee having a more detailed discussion on setting a potential precedence for events public liability and vicarious liability conditions. Sorry, that didn't come out very clear. I'll try again. I think it's worth, if we are introducing new conditions around the level of public liability insurance that events holders must hold, and potential new conditions around vicarious liability, as you just mentioned. If there's new precedent being set, I think it's probably worthwhile the Audit and Risk Committee having the more detailed discussion about risk before it comes to Council.
Thank you, Councillor Davey. I will speak against the motion. I'm struggling to understand the need to refer such a development application to the A&R Committee for consideration prior to being considered by Council. My first concern is the assessment of development applications for specific development applications is not within the A&R's Committee's terms of reference. We can look at broader issues around risk and liability. And secondly, the A&R Committee does not have decision-making powers and would be limited to then referring the matter back to Council for decision. So I consider this an unnecessary decision loop that creates work for our Audit Committee members in attending the meeting, specific meeting for this consideration, and it also creates work for our executive, who will need to write an additional report, and creates administrative burden to staff in preparing and convening an urgent meeting. This work is created, we might have the full report developed by this time, but I would not like to see it go to the Audit and Risk Committee without the full report having been prepared. So my preference is to allow the planning team to use their specialist skills to finish processing the application, and then with all the information available, make their recommendation for consideration by Council. With that, I think we've all had our voice. We'll put that to vote. Oh, sorry, right of reply to Councillor Bailey.
Through the Chair, councillors and community, the Audit and Risk Committee there is to audit risk. And at the risk at the moment is our people's paid insurance. Now, the fee for this application is, I believe, less than $1,000. But if we don't make sure that the venue is secure and the proponents have enough liability insurance, and that's only on their own location where they're operating, but also on the easement, which is privately owned. There's been very little consideration, I believe, for people that own that easement and the liability they carry. So I understand that Audit and Risk Committee don't make decisions, but they make recommendations, and it's right in the purview of the Audit and Risk Committee to look at this and make recommendations. Now, the questions are on the quality of the ingress and egress. We pose pretty heavy conditions on our community when they want to do something on a commercial basis, but for some reason when it comes down to functions, we drop the ball a bit. So I want the Audit and Risk Committee to look at that and report back to Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bailey. We'll put that to vote. Those in favour?
Councillors Glover, Davey and Bailey.
And those against?
Councillors Lindeman, Mitchell, Patrick and Shire President.
Thank you. The motion was defeated.
So we probably just need to deal with the minutes themselves and probably see whether you can get a
The
mover and a
original,
seconder
okay.
for the original officer recommendation.
All right. So councillors, that will take us to the original recommendation. Would someone like to move that council receive the minutes from the Audit and Risk Management Committee meeting held on the 31st of July 2025 and adopt the recommendations as detailed in the minutes and summarised at 1.1.1? Councillor Mitchell and seconded Councillor Glover. Councillor Mitchell, would you like to speak to the recommendation? And Councillor Glover?
No, thank you.
Would anyone like to speak against the recommendation? We'll consider that carried. Councillor, just to let you know, I'm having a bit of difficulty because I'm working off my edited copy and I'm having trouble with my PC. So I'm just going to take another moment to find out what's going wrong.
Yeah, right. Where are you saving it to? Just your local drive? Yeah, this is a different version with all of presidents, but thank you. It's got the president's notes in it. I'm trying saving it to another drive. What do you want, a thumb drive? We've got a thumb drive there?
I don't know that I can get back to it. It's not letting me get back to the actual document.
Right,
And then I can save it to a thumb drive.
yeah. We got a thumb drive? Yeah, sorry, mate. Did you want my hard copy to just maybe step through, or are you happy just, oh, there you go, you've got,
I can just take it from here. So if I can save it onto something.
yeah, we'll just grab the thumb drive. Yeah. Are you connected to the network? No. No, okay.
There we go.
Thanks, mate. Cheers. Yeah, we'll catch that. Thanks, mate. All good? Yes, it's town clerk, yeah.
Thank you for your patience. Moving on to item 9, reports of officers. At 9.1.1, the Donnybrook Clock Tower proposal has been approved en bloc. As per the recommendation.
I can't see
Shall I
what you
read
have
it?
on the screen.
If you bring that recommendation up, 9.1.1.
For those playing along at home.
And that's the recommendation for those that are interested in that item. So that Council receives the attached Donnybrook Clock Tower proposal business plan and acknowledges in principle support for the Donnybrook Clock Tower initiative and requests the Chief Executive Officer to issue the Donnybrook Clock Tower proposal business plan for public comment and provide a report back to Council with a record of comments and further recommendations for Council's consideration. Thank you. And at item 9.2, we have item 9.2.1, approved en bloc the schedule of accounts paid as at the 31st of July 2025. At item 9.2.2, we have approved en bloc Council Policy FIN CP2 investments. And at 9.2.3, we have an absolute majority decision for the report of review of local laws under section 3.16 of the Local Government Act 1995. Now, councillors, I just need to ask CEO to...
Not at this stage.
Oh, not at this stage?
It's only if the amendment comes up that I'll make a
Okay,
comment.
all right. Councillor Davey?
I wanted to move this one with an amendment, please.
It's $1.
It's a carton.
A carton, okay. Okay. Councillor Davey, are you moving an amendment?
I'd like to move this item with an amendment, please.
And what is your amendment?
It was sent through last Wednesday, so you can see it on the screen there. So my amendment is to change item 1.4 to read as follows: amend CAT Local Law 2016 and add 2.6 CAT Local Law 2016 to item 2, which means it's in the list that would be amended.
Do you want me to make the comment?
Yep. I'll ask the CEO to make a comment on that. Councillor Davey, to see if you still want to proceed.
Do you have a seconder?
But
We get a seconder or?
do you want it raised first?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll get it on to discussion. So would someone like to second that amendment?
Councillor Bailey?
Councillor Bailey? Sorry,
You're right for me to make a
peripheral
comment?
vision. Okay. CEO, could you please make a comment
Yeah, so
on
look,
that before Councillor Davey speaks?
yeah, so look, thanks, certainly councillors again don't want to step into the debate, and obviously this is an amendment to the CAT local law, or proposing to put this onto the amendment list. So that would mean that would be staff would be taking those active procedural legislative steps to make an amendment to the existing CAT local law. Obviously just done a little bit of research on the matter, and just for councillors' awareness. Councillors will be aware that there is some legislative changes afoot. However, that doesn't stop us from taking that next step if indeed this matter is supported by a council resolution. However, it is quite a procedural matter, codified by legislation, and one of the final checks and balances is that any changes that are proposed after they do community consultation and the relevant state interest checks go up to what's called the Joint Standing Committee on Delegated Legislation, and that's got the membership of that state government committee is members of the MLA and the MLC, and indeed some executive officers in that as well. So from talking with and seeking some informal feedback from other shires, one shire that way, another shire that way, is one of the shires actually were able to get their CAT local law amended ahead of any changes or assent to the regulations and the changes under the prevailing legislation. However, they have advice that they can't actually enforce those that local law because there's no head of power or no legislative instrument. Okay, that's okay. I've just, yep. And then the other one from the other shire is that indeed they proceeded with making the amendments and went through all the procedural steps, which is quite extensive. And then it was held up at the last post, being the Joint Standing Committee. So obviously this wasn't discussed at the agenda briefing, or was touched on at the agenda briefing, but officers have undertaken some further investigation. So it's again just grist for the mill, not entering into the debate.
Thank you, CEO. Councillor Davey, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thanks, President McCarthy. So I will go a little bit into cats and the problems that they cause and then come back to what I'm proposing here. So cats are one of the most significant threats to Australia's wildlife, killing 1.7 billion native animals per year. Effectively controlling predation by cats is very difficult, especially in the higher rainfall forests found in the southwest of WA. So the Commonwealth Government is currently spending $500,000 on a project working towards saving native species, targeting pigs, cats and foxes on 50 properties adjacent to the Wellington National Park. It's recognised that town sites in proximity to conservation estates act as a feeder point source of roaming cats, contributing to predation threats to native fauna. So these are not feral cats, these are pet cats. The state legislation, the Cat Act, requires cats over 6 months to be microchipped, sterilised and registered with local governments. As CEO O'Connor alluded to, the current Act does not give local governments the ability to enforce containment on people's properties, and WELGA are advocating to change this. So we don't have heads of power to do that. The Act is under review, but there is no timeline on this change. So in the meantime, other regional shires, so here I'm talking about Northern Narrogin and Pingelly, are moving to prohibit cats from being on local government managed land. So if they're not in a carrier or tethered, so that resolves any practical issues about taking your cat to the vet, for example. So this is just prohibiting cats from being on local government managed land and seizing cats that are creating a nuisance. So this is a reasonable first step to keeping them off roads, minimising fights and reducing impacts on wildlife. This is also a welfare issue, with indoor cats typically living twice as long as outdoor cats, with a multitude of options for indoor cat enrichment readily available. So given there is no timeline for amendments to the state level Cat Act, I'm proposing we consider an interim measure like those adopted by other regional councils to encourage gradual change in the behaviour of cat owners in our shire to bring them in line with dog owners.
Thank you, Councillor Davey. Councillor Bailey. Sorry, Councillor Bailey.
Through the chair, the word local law is interesting because we don't get to set the rules, we just get to administer them. And cats are a major killers, and we had this problem years ago where we tried to change it, and when it came back from the people who know everything, they said it was abhorrent that we should stop cats roaming the streets and roaming parks, and they had a right to do that. And it sounds like they're still on the same deal. They are the biggest killer of wildlife in our area. So I support the interim policy.
Thank you, Councillor Bailey. Would anyone else like to speak against the motion?
I have a question, if I may.
Question? Councillor Lindeman.
Thanks very much. It was left off, I'm sorry, I haven't picked up on amend Cat Local Law 216 and add 2.6. What's the amendment? What are you wanting to move forward with that's glaringly different, please?
Thank you, Councillor Lindeman. Councillor Davey, I'll allow you to answer that without debating.
So at the moment, it is not being considered for amendment. I would like it considered for amendment.
Would anyone like to speak against the amendment? Councillor Mitchell.
Well, as you all know, Kitty lives at home. He objects to his right to roam being incurred, but I do understand he is special and he never kills anything native. But at the same time, I actually believe that we should wait, and when we have got some teeth to do it with, then actually amend the policies and actually be able to prosecute, etc. Look, one of the best things that we've done, as far as I'm concerned, in 14 years of council, we actually donated sterilisation. Sex at Night or something it was called, and I actually thought that was a really good thing to help the process along. Sex in the City, I think it was, stamping out Sex in the City. And there is some funding made available, so I'm very, that's on the side, but I actually think that's extremely valuable. And yes, I do agree Kitty needs to stay inside. But yeah, I'd just leave it as it is and deal with it when it comes up. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mitchell. Would anyone else like to speak for the motion? Councillor Lindeman.
Yeah, in light of some of that information, but I myself have been in the bush and have seen some pretty big cats and have been in my yard with just a pile of feathers. It's very disappointing, and I have an actual dray of possums in one of my trees that just don't seem to be around anymore. I think it hits pretty hard, so if we can look at amending that, that would be awesome. I do like Councillor Mitchell's suggestion that there was a time in which there was free sterilisation. That would be, pretty good as well. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Lindeman. Would anyone like to speak against the motion? I have a question, if you don't mind, CEO. Can you explain to me, if we amend the Act, I just want to be clear, if we amend the Act, can we enforce it? Sorry, if we amend our local law, can we enforce it?
I'd need to take that on notice. I believe, obviously, we've got the power to amend or to change or indeed adopt local laws as long as they're not in conflict with any state legislation, and that is part of the approval process. I'd need to see the detail of what the proposed amendment actually is, so it's a bit hard to provide you with an informed response at this stage. So, I'm not sure I answer your question, but I don't know what I don't know at this stage.
Okay. Then I would probably like to say that I don't feel like there's enough information here in this amendment to proceed. I'm probably cautious about creating unnecessary work or repetitive work, so doing something then doing it again once we get the legislation through. So I think I'd rather wait for the legislation to be given to us so that whatever we do, we can enforce that. I just feel like I haven't got enough knowledge around this, and it's probably why the original recommendation had to not change it. Would anyone else like to speak to the motion for or against? Councillor Bailey.
Yeah, through the chair, question.
Question, yep.
When does the powers to be going to hand down what we don't know?
We don't know.
Yeah, there's no, my understanding, and Mr Marshall might correct me here, is that this has been a review that's been on foot for quite some time, and the latest advice is that there's no granularity around the amendment, when the amendments will come into effect. All right, now I'd like to speak for the motion. I think...
Councillor Bailey, you've already spoken? Yep. So...
Seconder.
Okay. Anyone else like to speak for or against? Okay, going back to Councillor Davey with right of reply.
Thanks very much. So at the moment, we're proposing to curb nuisance animals and animals on council lands in the absence of a firm commitment from the government that any change is coming, and the main imposition would be on the Shire for education. So this is not keeping everyone's cats inside. This is not forcing catios. This is a simple first step. And the other item was, well, the President may not have enough information on judging whether the amendments are worthwhile yet, because we don't have any amendments on the table. It's simply moving this item to be considered for amendment.
Okay. And with that, we'll put the matter to vote. Those in favour of the motion?
Councillor Bailey, Councillor Davey, Councillor Lindeman, Councillor Patrick and Councillor Glover.
And those against?
Councillor Mitchell and President McCarthy.
Thank you, councillors. Okay.
Absolute majority. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, that's an absolute majority.
Cool. Moving on to 9.2.4, Code of Conduct for Council Members, for committee members and candidates. Once again, we have an absolute majority decision, councillors. We have an executive recommendation in front of us that council adopts the amendments to the Shire of Donnybrook Bailing Up Code of Conduct for council members, committee members and candidates. Would someone like to move that motion? Councillor Bailey? And a seconder? Councillor Patrick? Councillor Bailey? Oh, sorry, Councillor Bailey, we'll just hold on for a sec. Councillor Mitchell, have you got a question?
Yes, look, I understand this is it's just adopting the amendments. However, I've got a issue and I'd like to understand more what 6D means. Take other actions the local government considers appropriate. I'd like to know what that looks like. Should it ever, and certainly hope, and it's great that it hasn't in the last 2 years, should that ever be enacted?
Let me just have a chat and see if we've got the answer for you, Councillor Mitchell.
6D, so... All right, so... Yep, D for...
So be open and accountable to...
It's actually very much about behaviour, it's not behaviour. Is there a numbering? It's a plan under some clause will be. Oh, sorry, actually, is that in the, oh, you're in the attachments, aren't you?
Yep.
The key word would be, if you'd like to word search for, maybe appropriate, considers appropriate. This is a cut and paste, so unless there is a numbering.
It's right, yeah, I think it's
Oh, there you go.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
It's basically. Yeah, so it's basically if there's a problem, what does that clause mean?
I can have a shot.
If you've had a chance to read that, councillors, CEO, would you like to...
Yeah, look, I can provide with it. Yeah, I acknowledge you sent an email through today, Councillor. I really haven't had a chance to have a good read of it and get under the bonnet, but obviously the Code of Conduct and indeed the associated regulations provide different tiers of assessment of, I guess, proposed or alleged breaches of behavioural standards. So the first level of behavioural standards is maybe the use of foul language or offensive language, and those lower order type of alleged offences are dealt with by council, and there's a number of remedies available, censure, etc. And again, I'm just thinking off the top of my head, there could be an apology, there could be a requirement to go get counselling, or indeed a plan could be developed for training. That would be an example of a plan to address that those behavioural matters. So it's at the lower end of the spectrum of an alleged offence against the Code of Conduct. You then have in the different divisions, if it is a slightly higher alleged offence, that is referred off to a panel, and then indeed if it is actually a significant or a major breach, as we've touched on, it goes off to a higher order to the department. So I don't really want to speculate around what it could look like, but I guess that's the conceptual way that the Code of Conduct works and the relevant responses available to council or other parties.
Thank you, CEO. You right? Okay. Councillor Bailey, would you like to speak to your motion?
No, I think enough has been said on that, thank you.
Okay. Councillor Patrick? Would anyone like to speak against the motion? Would anyone like to speak for the motion? Councillor Mitchell.
Oh, look, I think we're square now, CEO, because I didn't get to read one of your emails last month, so it's square. And I understand life's very busy. However, I did ring Welga and it was toothless what they came back with. I very commend this council on all playing very nicely throughout some very difficult times. I really do hope potential people putting their hands up for election are watching and taking note by now, and I'd certainly hope that this will never be needed. However, I do urge that there'd be some further research into what would be appropriate. There's more templates, etc., that Welga have provided, and I think it should be it should be looked at and addressed in future months, because I think it's important. My experience in managing complaints and procedures and managing policies and processes and codes is you actually have to have a very clear and defined method of handling that, and that's what these additional documents that Welga provided. So I would urge that they actually be taken on board at a later time. However, I'm going to support the motion and certainly hope we never need it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mitchell. I will have a word for the motion, that I'm particularly pleased as a strong advocate of values-based leadership to see the insertion of our endorsed values as we've approved them at previous council meeting. And I welcome that, because I think that our behaviours in this council are a measure of those values. Is anyone prepared to speak against the motion? Then we'll take that as carried. Oh, sorry, right of reply. Okay. Now that we've gone that way, I do need to go. Those for? And carried unanimously. Moving on to item 9.2.5, the Taliesin Stakeholder Reference Committee. We have another decision before us, Council, that requires an absolute majority. I understand that Councillor Patrick, you were happy to represent Council, and Councillor Lindeman, you were happy to be proxy, is that correct?
That's correct.
So if you've put your hand up for this role. Is everyone's happy? We can move and second that. Would someone like to move? Yep. Would Councillor Davey, and seconded Councillor Lindeman. Is anyone speaking against the motion? Then we'll consider that carried. Moving to item 9.2.6, the Walga Local Government Convention and Annual General Meeting 2025. Councillors, I'll move this motion from the chair and cite the motion as 1.1, Shire President as the voting delegate, and 1.2, elected member Councillor Amanita Lindeman as the second elected member, and then move a line through 1.3, deleting the observer or proxy delegate. So would anyone like to second the motion, and I'll explain my reason for doing so. Councillor Davey. In speaking to the motion, I'd just like to explain my amendment is that you will recall we discussed at our workshop previously that I received 2 expressions of interest in response to my email last month. I've then applied a couple of principles, and firstly, that we don't invest tight funds, a tight budget. We don't invest funds in sending retiring councillors to the convention for the simple reason that the value they capture from that convention can't be brought back into council for the benefit of our community. And the second principle is that also in a tight budget period, in the interest of being fair and equitable, that we cycle the opportunity to attend the convention and bring back the learnings to council and community. We offer that opportunity, cycling it through council. If we had a nice, healthy, meaty budget where we could send more councillors through, we could. But my position on this is that we are in a tight budget. Our community has accepted a lot of cutbacks from us, and in a period such as this, I think we should need to be more lenient than not. And so, as I mentioned, I received 2 expressions of interest in response to my email, one from Councillor Lindeman and the other from Councillor Glover. And given Councillor Glover attended the convention last year, I'm proposing that the second delegate opportunity this year is offered to Councillor Lindeman. My seconder was Councillor Davey.
Yeah, I actually wanted to, can I take my seconding back? Because I didn't realise that the second person who'd nominated to attend hadn't retracted. I thought that's why you crossed out 1.3.
I don't think you can take it back, but you can argue against it.
Okay.
Would you like to speak to the motion? No. Okay. Would anyone like to speak against the motion? Councillor Patrick?
Thank you. Look, love the logic, agree with the logic. My only question around it is obviously, as the Shire President being the voting delegate, the Shire President themselves are up for election and potentially couldn't be re-elected and therefore wouldn't be, as part of council. So the logic around that second part of, not supporting potentially retiring or even coming to the end of their cycle candidates, I think there's a bit of disparity in that, given that there is that risk around that. So if we're going to introduce that, then maybe the same should apply. If that shouldn't apply, understanding that the Shire President's the voting delegate, but they can delegate that authority, then I don't think that maybe, in an election year, that methodology should come into play.
And would anyone like to speak for the motion? Would anyone like to speak either for or against? Councillor Glover.
I tend to agree with what Councillor Patrick also said, and I'm speaking against it as well, as from previous experience, attending the Walgar Convention is it actually shapes a lot of the way I've been able to contribute to council and to bring in some new ideas to council, which I've seen or been a part of in the conference as well. And so I'm just sort of expressing, I guess, my disappointment that the line got ruled out and I'll be unable to attend, so I'm speaking against it.
Thank you, Councillor Glover. Would anyone else like to speak to the motion for or against? Councillor Mitchell?
It's a Walgar revenue raising event. I totally disagree with it. I went once. I had an absolute wonderful time. There was lots of talking, lots of learning, but I could not justify the cost of going to the drinkies, the accommodation, and yes, I understand some of you may or may not be partaking in the events, but the tickets sort of are all or nothing just about. Even the voting, I disagree, it's usually very one-sided voting and it's not a huge impact on us. But if it's felt that it's necessary to send delegates and vote, they go up for the AGM. You actually, my understanding is during the AGM you do not have to pay to go in the door. I'm sure that'd create some arguments, but that's another thing. So I just totally disagree with the expense in this tight budget, and I urge people to consider not attending. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mitchell. Councillor Patrick.
Sorry, just a correction that I just noted. Staying in 2024, Councillor Davey, Councillor Glover and Councillor Patrick represented the Shire at the convention.
You didn't go.
I don't think I went.
I think you pulled out before.
So it's just a correction on that. It's quite minimal. Yep.
Anyone else like to speak for or against the motion? Councillor Bailey?
Through the chair. So what you're saying, the second elected member is not going because they may not be there after October? Is that what you say?
No.
No?
Is that a question?
Oh,
Um,
yeah, sorry. Yep, it is
just-
a question.
The principles that I applied, should probably leave that until I close. Did you want to speak for or against
No,
the
no, I've
motion?
just asked a question, if I could have an answer to that question.
No, the third attendee is
Yep.
taken out because I consider we have a very tight budget this year, and we have asked community members to take cuts in a number of areas, and we've had our Shire staff put forward a number of budget constraints that in a tight budget environment. So it's an opportunity for councillors to also do the same.
But you're up for election in October?
By retiring members, I mean members who are not standing for election next year. They are retiring from council.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Anita Lindemann.
Look, quite odd in this seat. I'm going to speak for the motion. My experience was good. There was information about diplomas in local government. You could get that funded. I was lucky enough to participate in a number of things that were going on there, and I won $250 that I donated to the Golden Valley Tree Park. Another was some big basket of goods that I gave to, God rest his soul, Brian Peace. So there were things that were of benefit in that way. There were things that benefited people in the knowledge. I know that Councillor Ringe, or ex-Councillor Ringe, took on doing the diploma. So there were things that pushed people into new areas that they may not have considered, and those doors were open. In saying all of that, and I really do think you get a lot out of it, you come away and you have a lot to offer when you return. I agree with the two people, but based on people's feelings on it, I am quite happy to step away and for someone to put their hand up and take my position, no problem at all. If someone feels that it's really important to them, I'm quite happy to. So if you would like to take that vote, if anyone would like to take it, I'm quite happy to sit back and let someone else go.
Thank you, Councillor Lindemann. Is that an amendment?
That'd be amendment.
Yeah.
Would be amendment, yep.
Councillor Patrick, you have a question?
I do have a question. So from the agenda briefing, this wasn't what was presented to us.
We didn't have any names at the agenda.
No, okay. So my understanding of this, at what point now can we raise an amendment to revert it back to where it was? For the council to decide the eligibility and vote on who attends?
Yeah, so there's... What's the question? Yeah, so it's a procedural question though. So at the moment, the motion put forward is just for the two, as you've moved and it's been seconded. If indeed there's an amendment, they can amend it at any time.
Any time.
Yep.
Okay. So everyone gets to vote again.
Yep. To the
Okay.
amendments,
So
if
would you
indeed-
like to raise an amendment, Councillor Patrick?
Sure. My amendment would be to remove that scored through line, and I personally would, Councillor Glover has put her hand up, especially as the Deputy President. I think it should be put open to the council to vote whether or not that's appropriate with Councillor Lindemann, who has also put her hand up.
So your amendment is that you just want to put the third line in?
Put the line back in and fill it in with the only other person that nominated to attend that conference, yes.
As Councillor Glover. Okay. And is there a seconder to that amendment? Councillor Bailey? And Councillor Patrick, would you like to speak to your amendment?
No, look, I think I have. Councillor Glover has been on the council for quite a number of years. She is very proactive. The fact that she's willing to put her hand up and take the time away from work as a full-time employee, I think it would be beneficial to her, to the council. She is sitting on council for another 2 years. She's not up for election, and I just think it would be appropriate for her and Councillor Lindeman to go get different perspectives and bring them back to the council.
Thank you, Councillor Patrick. Councillor Councillor Bailey. Do you want to speak to your motion? Speak to the amended motion?
I agree with the amended motion. I think that's a good idea.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak against the amended motion? And for? Councillor Davey.
Yeah, I think it's great to have 3 people on the list, given we get 2 votes, and we had 1 person pull out of the 3 last year. So I think it's really handy to have a proxy in case anything comes up. And I attended with Councillor Glover last year. We each took completely different things away from the event and reported different learnings, I guess. There's often more than 1 session running in parallel, so you have the opportunity to get good coverage.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak for or against the motion? Okay, we'll put that amended motion to vote. Those in favour?
Councillors Bailey, Davey, Lindeman, Patrick and Glover.
And those against?
Councillors Mitchell and Shire President.
Thank you.
So that
That's
becomes a substantive
carried.
motion. So it becomes a
It's
substantive motion. So you just need to put
That's
the
sorry, counts as a substantive motion.
Yep.
Does it matter that it's a majority?
No, so what needs to happen is there was an original motion, there was then the amendment was then endorsed, it becomes a substantive motion, therefore you need to vote on the substantive motion.
And it was endorsed as a majority.
As an
Okay,
absolute
yeah.
majority, that's correct.
All right, so we go back to
That becomes the
the substantive motion.
That's okay. You just,
So it goes back to me, is it?
so you just put the substantive, I think you just put the substantive motion. The amendments become the motion. Yep. Yep. So you move the original.
I moved the original. So
This is now the motion. Yep. You're still the mover and the seconder. So the councillors have amended your original motion.
okay, so I
That
don't
comes
need
back.
to speak to the amended
don't have
motion.
to.
So Councillor Davey, would you like to speak to the amended motion?
No, thank you.
Would anyone like to speak for or against the amended motion? We'll put that to vote. All those in favour?
Councillors Bailey, Davey, Lindeman, Patrick, Glover and Shire President.
And those against?
Councillor Mitchell.
Thank you, councillors. We got there. Yeah. And moving through item 9.2.7, which has been approved en bloc, which is the date change for the September Ordinary Council meeting to the Thursday of the same week. Which brings us to items 9.3, Chief Executive Officer, 9.3.1, the Asset Optimisation Tranche 1.
So in accordance with 10.5 of the meeting local law.
Councillors, I've just lost my screen again, so I'm sorry. We'll have to go off a hard copy.
So in accordance with 10.5 of the meeting local law, you're deemed that it's a complex motion, therefore each of the matters will be dealt with at sit down.
Okay. In accordance with 10.5, I will treat this motion as a complex motion and we'll work through the motion ad seriatim, which means we will discuss each or decide each of the points 1 through to 5 separately. So would councillors like to move item 1, noting the results of the community consultation as attached and detailed in this report? Councillor Anita Lindeman and Councillor Mitchell seconding. Councillor Lindeman, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes. Okay. Going to take you on a little journey of my life.
This is item
Sit
1.
back, enjoy, yeah. And this is, are you talking about the sale of?
No. So
No,
this is just,
no, it's the results of the community consultation.
Just
Damn it.
item 1.
Ah.
Item 1. is-
Okay, let's just talk about the notes. No, I don't want to talk about.
Okay. And Councillor Mitchell, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, I would, because I just coincidentally, I happened to be reading back on the community consultation for the Taj Mahal on the hill, and there are 32 responses. In the agenda item, it is very pointed that there was X amount of views and only a certain amount responded. So I would just like to thank those that responded and actually think, considering the effect on the community, I think that's a massive, massive result of the community has spoken. So yeah, just noting that one thing that, yeah, the number of responses, even though the graph shows it is only 3%, I think that's a trick of the eye. Just be aware that the community consultation, and I'll flick you the email shortly, councillors, showed 32 responses for the sporting venues. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mitchell. Would anyone like to speak against this first motion? Then we'll consider that carried. Sorry? It's carried anyway because we're all for it. Would you like the opportunity to speak? All right, moving on to the second point in the executive recommendation. Commences the sale process for lot 3122 Donnybrook, Boyup Road, Beelarup, and liaises with the Wellington District Pony Club to identify an alternate site to conduct equine activities. Would councillors like to move that motion? Councillor Lindeman has moved the motion, and Councillor Lisa Glover seconded. Councillor Lindeman,
Oh, this
would you like to speak to the
was
motion?
a bit of an anticlimax before. Sure.
Sorry?
there's a number of well, there'd be either amendments or foreshadowed motions. So.
Sorry, Councillor Mitchell.
I'm ready for your amendment. Thanks.
Councillors, can we just keep to the script?
Sure.
This is a difficult motion, and we'll need to have some patience with each other as we go through. Councillor Lindeman.
Okay, it wasn't anticlimax, but I will give you a story. For the sale of lot 3122 Donnybrook, Boyup Road, Beelarup, the Pony Club was an important part of my own life when I was younger, in the years in ACT. I'll take you back to early 1980s. I had a horse which I rode to the Canberra Lakes Pony Club in Yarralumla every second Sunday, and approximately a 20 to 30k round trip on horseback. We would participate in programmed events and coached riding classes catered for by volunteers. This was the early 80s, and my mum would often accompany me on the journey. Back then, she ran out in front because she used to do training for being a marathon runner. I might add, it wasn't until 1984 that women even did a marathon, so she was ahead of her time. So later my sister accompanied me, and she had a little 14-2 hand, rough nut, hairy, nuggety Galloway. And he was bought from a farm in Adaminaby near the Snowy Mountains. She won the one-day event on that gelding up against the floated, rugged, stabled and well-groomed thoroughbreds. I funded my horse love by selling newspapers out the front of the public service offices in Canberra. I was the first papal girl, and I used to load up down in David Jones with Women's Weeklies, Pix Peoples, Telegraphs, and that was when they were doing newspapers twice a day. I was a keen horsey person. 15 years later, my little sister, so we've got a bit of an age gap, also joined the same pony club. So I have fond memories of my horsey years and know the joy, skills and resilience horses teach for young riders. But like many things in our world, they change. Horses really do eat $100 notes. In my era, you could ride to Pony Club, have cheap agistment, no stable or float, one saddle, one bridle, one horse for everything. There was space, trails and freedom. Today, with urbanisation, costs of feed, farriers, vets, a shortage of time, money, and volunteers, it is less likely youth will own a horse, and even less likely they'll ride it to their local pony club. To continue to enjoy horsey events, etc., I'd say most people now float their horse, and if so, the best place to do so is some of the larger facilities such as the Dardanup Pony Club, which is only 20 minutes up the road. The club has a minimum of a 12-hour per year compulsory work for each family to keep it going. This is outside of rally days in which you must also volunteer. With an established cross-country course and plenty of busy bees to help evolve and maintain this amazing facility, it makes sense. Instruction, rallies, show jumping, dressage, eventing, and the ability to gain access to train outside of scheduled rally days allows for plenty of practice. The underutilisation of the Donnybrook Pony Club, less than 10 times a year, by possibly 10 people, and with a better facility not far down the road, I'd expect the best decision is rationalisation. By the selling of this parcel of land, Council decided to embark on this course, knowing hard decisions were to be made. We were no longer going to kick the can down the road. But were we willing to consider our whole community by setting a course so the Shire is in a more stable, and that was a pun, financial position to face changing demands and buffer against escalating costs that may not be within our control in the future, but will set us up for a more sustainable future. Let's not get sidetracked and focused on the smaller issues when we need to look at the long-term financial commitments that we sat around this table and discussed in the last year or two. So I will support the selling of this land.
Thank you, Councillor Mitchell. Councillor Lindeman. Councillor Mitchell?
Me. There was me.
Oh, beg your pardon, Councillor Glover.
Thank you. I feel honoured, Councillor Mitchell. I'd like to move this motion with an amendment, please. Can I do that now?
Mm-hmm. Okay, and can we get the amendment up?
I believe there was a little bit added on to the amendment as well as recommended.
As long as you're happy.
Yeah.
As long as you're happy with that, Councillor. I didn't think it was actually an enforceable or motion without that assistance. So.
Yeah. So the amendment was to commence the sale process, but also to liaise with the Wellington District Pony Club to identify an alternate site. But also prior to looking at the sale, it was to seek an evaluation of the sand that's on the lot 3122, Donnybrook, Boyabrook Road, Beelarup. Explore the options for the sand extraction, explore options for future use of sand within the Shire of Donnybrook Balingup, and provide a report back to Council in regard to those aspects, but also point 5 was to approve of a $25,000 amount to engage in that process as well. That would be the amendment.
So, apologies.
Thank you, Councillor Glover.
Can we just take a minute? I just need to provide some wording through to the minutes
Thank you.
clerk so it can be put up there.
Thank you.
You logged in as Sorry, Sambo. It's my bad, mate. So, Councillor
CEO?
Glover. Yeah, so through you, Chair. Councillor Glover, once the screens are back on, can I just get you to confirm that this is indeed your proposed amendment, just that we had to do a bit of a hybrid, that's all?
That would be correct, thank you.
Yeah. And sorry, just
Yeah.
100% clarity, are you still wanting us to commence the process but do the other work before anything happens? So is it still number 2? Does that make sense? Yeah.
My belief would be that it would be prior to the commencing the sale process.
Okay, so are you all right, so you're...
Yep.
Yep. So your motion is just 1 to 5? You don't want us to have any regard to the first bit?
Well, the first bit would be in the number 2 part. It would be number 2, not the amendment, but the number 2 part would be just prior to commencing the sale process.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yep. Okay. So Sam, what I might get you to do is just pull that down to 1. No. So put that bit there. Is that more? Is that
Councillor Mitchell, I'll let
That would be
I'll let her
correct,
catch
thank
up
you.
before. Councillor Mitchell, have you got a question?
Yes, for Councillor Glover, if I may, please.
We haven't got a seconder for this yet. So,
You might after this, if I may ask her the question.
well, just a moment, please. No, I'll need a seconder for this amendment, please, before we can go for it. Councillor Bailey? And now a question.
My question to Councillor Glover, would she be happy if we add another point that also explore the possibility of surveying boundary changes? Yeah.
That would be fine, thank you.
So do you have yours put forward?
I didn't, yeah, so basically explore the possibility of amendment to surveying the boundaries to separate the sand from the clay part.
So it could be either, are we talking about either reconfiguration, a lot or a subdivision? Is that of the major parcel? Yep.
There's some options there to actually explore.
Yep.
That there may be options.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mitchell. So, Councillor Glover, you're happy for that to be inserted into
I'm
the
happy
amendment?
for that to be inserted.
And Councillor Bailey, you're happy for that to be inserted? Yes. Okay. Councillor Glover, would you like to speak to the motion?
Certainly would. I was a horse rider myself when I was growing up, Councillor Lindeman, but I'm not going to go into that. I believe that we owe it to our ratepayers to maximise value and not sell prematurely without exploring the combination of the land and the asset on it, which is sand. When we talk about asset optimisation, my understanding is that as a councillor, I have responsibility to ensure that our assets deliver the best possible benefit to our ratepayers. I do not want to be remembered as a councillor who sold off community-owned assets without gain. Instead, I want to be part of a council that makes strategic decisions that grow the long-term wealth of our shire. In this instance, I do not believe the sale of the land without exploring the sand as an asset achieves that. This parcel of land holds more than just real estate value. It contains significant land resources. The question we should be asking is, how much is the sand worth to our ratepayers? If we sell the land as it currently stands, it's likely that another company is going to purchase it and extract the sand and make profit from it. Profit that should rightly benefit our community. Selling this land without first exploring the potential value of of the sand resource is, in my view, the opposite of asset optimisation. This is a real opportunity here for our Shire and our ratepayers to benefit from this land before we consider selling it. If we were to sell it as is, we would effectively be handing over a valuable community-owned resource to another party to profit from it. This is not asset optimisation, it's just disposal. I'm not convinced that the sale of this land without exploring the sand as an asset is in the best interests of our ratepayers, and I would urge my fellow councillors to reconsider this proposal and ensure that we have fully explored the potential of this land, including the extraction of sand, before making any final decision. In my view, that is true asset optimisation and what it looks like.
Thank you, Councillor Glover. Councillor Bailey?
Through the chair. Sand, whether we like it or not, is such a valuable asset now. We're very lucky we've got this close to town. We can use this sand to fill the land of the Victory Road Lane project, which has been on the books for years. Now, putting that with fill on it, it vastly increases the land, and then we could look at either a joint venture or just selling the land to make a lot of money. But we're going to increase the value of that block over there by having it filled. And there's other blocks around town. We used a lot of sand down near the bridge here a few years ago when we filled that block and gave it away. We used a lot of sand on the Clifford Road project, and we're using sand on our roads all the time. I don't think we should be buying it when we've got it. This is going to take longer to realise the asset, but it's a longer term asset.
Thank you, Councillor Bailey. I'd like to ask a question of the CEO or of Director of Operations. This is quite different to what we have workshopped previously, and I'd like to understand what resources, how can I put this? Can you please advise Council or make clear to Council what our current process is for sand and whatever? We haven't discussed this at the workshop at all. So we don't know the details of this proposal.
Thank you, Madam President. Without trying to enter into debate, and I certainly don't want to do that, but if I understand your question, do we have access to sand resources? Is that
yes,
probably...
like how do we, like,
yep.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me about sand.
So we do have access to sand on the property that's being discussed at the moment. We also have a management order on an adjacent property as well that has been reserved for extraction. And there's also a number of other properties that are what's called UCL, so unallocated Crown land in that area that would be fit for sand extraction that we can access as a local government body. As far as long-term planning, we don't actually go to that level of detail for sand resources, probably more so for gravel as a greater resource that we require. So I can't really answer that side of the question, but there are other opportunities, if that's the sort of question and answer you're looking for.
Thank you. Okay, Councillor Davey, did you want to speak against the motion?
So I wanted to voice my appreciation first to all the people who submitted articulate responses against selling this asset. I was unaware that the site was still in use when it was workshopped, but I have since been approached by a number of non-current members, as well as the people who submitted submissions, who wholeheartedly supported retaining this asset for future generations, even though they don't use it anymore. Specifically for the people who are seeking to do rural activities in a rural environment outside of organised team sports such as football, netball and hockey. The Pony Club uses more than a small portion of this property for different events, sometimes running events simultaneously. The land size is really important. It's large enough to host zone games, which are circulated around the zone. These require a significant amount of land. You may have up to 50 or 60 families and 20 plus horse floats on site at any one time. Yes, there is an opportunity cost argument that I'm sure we'll hear more about. But from my perspective, I think we're looking at the wrong way, and there is a number of lost opportunities where we could be optimising the asset in other ways while retaining it if we were to sell it. The expired leaseholders are working on their certificate of incorporation renewal, which is currently pending, and they have office holders at the ready to pick that up and run it again. They have another club who've approached them looking for a home, another option for asset optimisation. They have the opportunity to start including older riders, those ones that are ageing out once they hit 25. They are also supporting certificates of competency through the Education Department. I grew up on a property with horses that's since been consumed by development, and I'd hate to see people who enjoy this rural pursuit being constantly pushed further and further out of the towns that they move to for this lifestyle. So we've just approved sand extraction next door. If we're going to spend $25,000 on this property, I'd like it to be for enhancement, not extraction. We can find the funds for the Victory Lane development from other properties that are up for sale and for consideration tonight.
Thank you, Councillor Davey. Would anyone like to speak for the amended motion? Anyone like to speak, for?
Yep.
Councillor Mitchell?
I'm going to speak for, and please forgive me, I'm trying not to be emotional about this. There's a bit going on in my life right now at this time of the year, and horses make it all worthwhile. Forgive me. Okay, 61, we talk about community consultation. It's hugely strong. Out of the 60 odd, 47 has said no, no, no and no. We can't say we go to community consultation and then change our mind. So I would like to, purely on that is why I'm trying to find a solution to for a win-win on this one, and I actually believe that this could be a possibility. I too would actually, and that's why I was hesitating, do we spend the 25 on the console, on getting the information from a consultant, or do we enhance? I absolutely endorse Pony Club, Horsemen's. As far as I know, the only money that's been spent by the Shire in that venue is I wrote a funding submission for a small grant for one rainwater tank. And, they've actually, yes, they're not flash, but they make it work. Councillor Lindeman, I absolutely understand the cost of horses. Out of the 15 odd people that I went to Pony Club with, 5 are still living in the district with horses on acreages, paying high rates and also circulating a lot of money to farriers, feed suppliers, etc. Out of my children, I think there's 3 or 4 kids that went to Pony Club that are still using their horses and on acreage and circulating a great deal of money. So the money does circulate in the community. I'd also like to say that some of the suggestions I don't think will work. We've talked about McDonald Park. Sure, that's fine. It's small. It wouldn't work. And the council would have to fence it. The Pony Club's asking for nothing more than what they have to keep. I actually think by trying to doing something with the boundary, and there may or may not be some possibilities. I did see some different size blocks in that area where you can juggle boundaries. It's also wouldn't be viable to sell it and then I don't believe for a minute and contractually bind a prospective purchaser into entering a peppercorn lease with the Pony Club. The horse is the most dangerous animal in Australia, and
Mosquito.
Mosquito. That's not an animal. Mosquito, it's an insect. So I'm picking hairs here, but I think it is something that would not work, and who, as an insurer, who would pick up that insurance for the public liability? The members of the Pony Club are part of PCA, Pony Club WA, and that is highly regulated and huge cost to each person for their insurance. And Councillor Lindeman, when they extend ages beyond 25, I'll be happy, mate. I'll have to get back into it. So yeah, look, it takes a lot of work, and I actually think for long-term benefits. Also, the other advantage of that block, it's out of the way. If we've got some unsavoury activity that would like to find a home, you know, there was a time when there was target shooting and that sort of stuff, that area would be perfect, and I'm sure if another group wished to share it, they would, Pony Club would probably be, you know, happy to share it on those off days. However, out of all the things that are happening, I don't believe we should be selling off assets. We need to cut the cloth, make a plan, and actually work within our boundaries. No other business that I'm aware of has money in the bank to back assets for renewal in a few years' time. We've got money in the bank. Should we want to develop these other activities that we're looking at, get through the plan and then look at maybe funding it from the asset replacement. But there will be some items in this I'll agree to, and there's some I won't. However, this one I urge you to support this item because it actually is a win-win, and community has spoken, so please listen to them.
Thank you, Councillor Mitchell. Would anyone like to speak for or against the amended motion? Councillor Patrick.
Thank you. Yeah, look, I will speak for the amendment. I'm not going to deny I'm extremely conflicted on this item. I myself, I've worked as a stockman on cattle stations for a couple of years. I worked as a horse riding teacher in Halls Creek for a couple of years. I was born in Forestdale when it was a horse place. Always had, been around horses and ridden horses. My concern or conflict with this one is the lack of information. Now, a lot of that we've been advised from the administration. They've tried for a couple of years to get meaningful information and feedback from the Wellington District Pony Club with no success. There's no lease in place. For most of the organisations that the Shire supports or has property that is operated on, the organisations provide feedback through to the Shire on their number of members, the number of activities and things like that. That information hasn't been forthcoming, and the administration doesn't have that information. And we've been advised that the administration has tried time and time again to get that. That makes it very hard for me to turn around and say, well, this land is well utilised and therefore, we shouldn't get rid of it. That said, I'm also, in reading all the information and the feedback from community members, there's some incorrect information in there. There's quite a few say the Wellington District Pony Club has a lease and is still leasing the block. Well, that's incorrect. So there isn't a formal lease in place. Again, for me, my issue is the lack of information that's been provided to make a really informed decision here, which is partially why I support this particular amendment, specifically item part 6 of it, the possibility of amending the surveying boundaries to separate the sand from the clay. I see it as a financial asset to sell the property, a financial liability, well, not a liability, but there's no real benefit to keeping it based on the information we currently have. However, by going down this path, it gives the opportunity to actually get more meaningful understanding of what can be done within the boundary, what the benefits are within the land itself, and it gives time, I think, based on what, I think it was Councillor Davey said, if the Wellington District Pony Club is going through that process of actually re-establishing and developing itself, their social media page has got nothing from the beginning of 2024, and prior to that was one post, prior to that's 2023. It gives an opportunity, I guess, for me as a councillor to make a much more informed decision a little bit further down the track once we get some of that feedback through. And I do encourage the people from the Wellington District's Pony Club to actually provide genuine, legitimate, actual data back to the council, to the Shire, so that when this is represented, we can make a more informed decision, taking into account the community needs. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Patrick. Would anyone else like to speak for or against the amended recommendation?
May I ask a question, please?
Yes, Councillor Lindeman.
The 25,000, has that been budgeted for, or where would that money come from in regards, unbudgeted expenditure?
Unbudgeted, yep.
So would we have to approve that? Oh, okay, money.
Yeah, so look...
Sorry, CEO.
Yeah, so probably to answer your question, yes, it is unbudgeted expenditure. We would be able to find the $25,000 if indeed that's just a figure I've have come up with, we'd find it through other savings. So I'm confident we'll be able to fund it within our means.
Could I ask another question, please?
Thank you, Councillor Lindeman.
In regard to sand extraction, are we equipped to run a business in sand extraction for our shire? You know, equipment, staff, and whatever is required. Don't know much about sand extraction myself.
CEO?
Oh, I don't know whether we're equipped to run it as a business. However, as Mr Marshall has outlined, it is an activity we undertake to extract resources for our own purposes. Now, look, I don't want to jump to any conclusions, whatever, but no doubt different service delivery models, including a joint venture or something like that, could be explored if indeed that was something else I wanted to do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comment? Anyone speaking for or against the amended motion? A question from Councillor Davey?
Have Shire staff had any experience where we have gone and established the value of a natural resource asset and then ignored that value and continued with the status quo?
Thank you, Councillor Davey. CEO?
I've only been here for 9 months, so that's a very interesting question. Thank you, Councillor David. Not that I'm aware of, but I don't know whether it was a question or a statement. So.
Okay, I'd like to speak against the motion. It's a huge decision to make, and we're trying to make decisions that ensure a thriving community for future generations. We've taken a courageous stand in making the decision to review our assets, but I believe we have to make very informed and considered decisions. And Councillor Glover, I'm sorry, but I just don't feel that I'm informed. It's not something we've workshopped. It's not something I feel I understand. We have tried to progress the analysis of this asset at our strategic planning workshop and at a previous council meeting, and I felt we had given good direction to the executive team on how we were looking to move forward with this daunting project, especially this parcel of land. And for my part, I am keen to understand the opportunity cost and how we can apply that opportunity cost of this asset, which I understand is somewhere, the value of the asset is somewhere between $700,000 or $800,000 and $1 million. And if I put my financial hat on, I know the cost of holding that asset as idle as it is at the moment, supporting less than 20 members of our community, it's costing us $45,000 a year if we think simply in the money, the interest earnings of the money if it were invested. So $45,000 a year for the foot traffic that's moving through that property. We're spending that to service a peppercorn rent. So my preference would be to continue to look at the opportunities we set out to look at, which is this sale of this property would fund a business case to look at the land here in Victory Lane, where we're looking to develop medium density housing, which we badly need, which provides opportunities for our 49 and above average demographic to downsize in this area and live in a smaller dwelling closer to the centre of town. It gives young people the opportunity to move out of home and move into an affordable home here. We don't have the money, we don't have the $500,000 it would cost to do a business case for Victory Lane, and it's one of the things we're looking for from the sale of this property to happen. The other opportunity is we've approved executive and encouraged executive to look at an ICT strategy. We have got abysmally old systems and processes in our shire. We've asked the executive to put forward an ICT strategy, and we don't have the money to implement that. So these properties that we're looking at are not to just, well, we've got a plan. We've got a plan of the things we've got to do. The medical centre that we want to look at, we can't afford the couple of $100,000 it will cost to do the business case, to understand how we want to develop that area. We can't even buy that back from Crown. And these are all the constraints that we've looked at with our asset optimisation plan. And that's the reason that we've made, as a council, the courageous decision to progress with these assets. So when we're making this decision, I ask council to remember that the opportunity cost is that we don't have $45,000 a year coming in if we just put the money in the bank. We don't have the money to do a business case for Victory Lane. We don't have the money to do a business case for the medical centre. And we will continue to be making decisions in those areas based on either an increase in rates or a drop in expenditure. We've done a great job. If we stick to our budget and don't have unplanned spend of, say, $25,000 for another feasibility study for this, we will have reduced our financial sustainability gap from 25.5% this time last year. At the end of this budget, we've reduced that to 16.5%, and if we stick to our budget and our plans for this coming year, we will reduce that down to 4.5%, from 25.5% to 4.5%, if we continue to make considered and diligent decisions. So I'm sorry, Councillor Glover, I can't support this application, this recommendation, this amendment, because I don't feel that we as a council have got all the facts to consider. Would anyone else like to speak for or against the amended motion? Councillor Bailey, you've already spoken.
Question?
Would anyone else like to speak for or against? No?
I don't think I've spoken against.
Councillor Lindeman, you
asked a
haven't
question.
spoken.
I haven't spoken against the motion, and I will, in the fact for those reasons that housing's an issue and we need to provide land for that, and we need to do the work that's required for that to happen. So there's obviously a lot of surveying and planning and et cetera, and a case to put forward. And that's what we all, I thought as a council, had agreed is where we wanted to head. We thought that was imperative. I remember everyone sitting here being one of the number one things was the housing crisis, and that's what we needed to provide. So we have to keep looking at the long term, and the long term plan was for us to have those funds available. We didn't want to put up rates, and we had to. We don't want to do it again. We don't want to keep putting them up to cover, to ensure that, you know, every little group has everything that they want. It's hard. It's a hard seat that we sit in to say, no, you can't have this, and no, we can't do that. But the right thing to do, and how we're going to be judged, is by history. How were you judged? What did you do to make this place a better place in years to come when I'm not here and other people may not be either? It's really important, and I think that legacy that you leave for future generations is incredibly important. So I wouldn't want to be distracted by the feel of what's going on. I think we should be focused, as hard as it is, on what it looks like in years to come. That's all.
Thank you, Councillor Lindeman. Councillor Glover, I believe it's your right of reply.
Yeah, thank you for that. And yeah, I agree with Councillor Lindeman and also Councillor McCarthy. We do want to do the best thing for our Shire, and this amendment is not in regard to not selling the asset. It's just about maximising the asset before we do sell it. So that's where I feel some of the debate has got a little bit offset in that way. Nobody here is saying we should not sell the asset. We're just saying we need to make the most out of the asset prior to selling it. And I also believe that with the number 6 part of it, it's a win-win situation as well. We're asking for the two parts of the land, basically the tenure, to be separated because we can't extract sand from the clay, and the clay part is where the people who are involved in the Horsemen's Club want to be riding and using as well. So it's actually a win-win situation. It's a win for our ratepayers because what it is we're trying to maximise the asset prior to selling it. It's a win to the Horsemen's Club because it actually sets aside that part that we want to look in. And the whole part is to have a look at it, to make sure we are doing the right thing. We don't have, as Councillor Patrick said, enough information to make it all work. but this is a way that we can have a look at it, take a step back, explore the asset, make sure we're making the most out of the asset, because that's what asset optimisation is. It's about making the most out of an asset. Otherwise, it's just really called asset disposal. And I'm not for asset disposal, I'm in for asset optimisation, as the title of this item is. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Glover. Okay, councillors, we've completed our debate. We'll put that to vote. So we're looking at the amended motion. Those in favour?
Councillor Bailey, Councillor Mitchell, Councillor Patrick and Councillor Glover.
And those against?
Councillors Davey, Councillor Lindeman and Councillor McCarthy. So probably apologies, but as this is contemplating the approval of unbudgeted expenditure, it'll require an absolute majority.
Thank you, CEO. So
No, it's not.
So, councillors, we don't have a. Sorry, you got a question?
I heard you say, CEO, that this needs an absolute majority because it's an unbudgeted item.
That's the advice I've
Could you
received.
please, and I also asked the question of Councillor Glover, if the 25,000, and we know you guys can draw blood out of a stone.
We've gone to vote, so let me just check
Hang
on what we're doing.
I think the question's valid. I think she'll have the question.
Yep. Okay, sorry, I wasn't sure if we could do that. So go for it.
I'm just asking the question, if the 25,000, if 0.5 was taken out, would it still need an absolute majority?
No, that's my understanding, because it's going back to my comment through you, Chair, is that because it is seeking out of budget cycle or budget review unbudgeted expenditure, then it would require it. However, if number 5 was not there, then it doesn't require an absolute majority. However, I go back to my initial comments that it's going to be, as the CEO, we don't have the capacity to undertake that work, both from a, staffing power, or indeed it's a specialised area of analysis that would need to be undertaken. So
we wouldn't have a valid.
Yeah. So what? Yeah.
Sorry.
That's correct. Yep. Yeah.
So as it stands, councillors, without 5, we don't have a valid recommendation. So we need an absolute majority, or the amendment is not valid. If you have any questions, Councillor
Sorry,
Davey?
the amendment has failed, so we should go back to the original motion, correct? Before we start manipulating the amendment that just
Yeah,
failed?
I'm not.
So we're talking about the simple law.
Well, the vote hasn't been put yet. So the vote has been put. So
The
you're
vote
right,
has
yeah.
been put.
Yeah. So the amendment has failed. Councillor Davies is correct. Yep.
Yes.
So you go back to the.
So the
substantive
amendment
motion.
is defeated,
Yep.
and then we
Because
go
it
back,
requires an absolute
or
motion.
it's
Yep.
invalid. So we would go back to the original recommendation.
Yep.
A question from Councillor Glover.
May I just ask the definition of an absolute majority?
50% of councillors.
Yep. So it's 50% of the actual position. So it's 50% of 9. So which is 5. So more than 50% of 9. Yeah. You need 5 votes.
Okay, councillors. So there's no need to. We've put it to vote. Just a moment, and I'll just check where we are.
Yep. It's okay.
So put it to vote.
Yep, so it was defeated because it required an absolute majority, so Councillor Davey was correct. Yep, so that matter is being moved and seconded, the amendment moved and
We go
seconded,
back to the
voted, so you go back to the original motion.
Which is Councillor.
Yep, so can we go back to the original motion? Yep. That's it there? Okay.
Did you hear that, councillors? The amended motion has been defeated, so we go back to the original motion raised by Councillor Lindeman and seconded by Councillor Glover. Councillor Davey,
I'd like to speak against the motion.
or will I call it? I'll let you. I will call for Okay. Councillor speaking against the motion. Councillor Davey.
Thank you. So we do want to have a long-term perspective on asset management, and we do want to explore every avenue to approach financial sustainability, but not at any cost. We went to our community and they spoke against the sale of this asset. So that is why we are reconsidering our position. We are reconsidering the direction we gave the Shire in our workshops, because we did consultation and the public did not want this. We constantly focus on making the gap for asset management smaller on our long-term financial plan, yet drains, roads and footpaths are not yet in that long-term financial plan. So once we close that gap, another one will blow out again. If we don't have money to renew assets at the point that they require renewal, we can make those tough trade-offs at that point in time. And when I asked whether we should expect a return on investment for a large asset that we recently invested in, I was told that no, we were supplying an asset for the community, so we don't expect a high return on that asset. So when we talk about, you know, the money that we could get from this this asset, we could be earning a $45,000 interest per year on that. But at the same time, what interest per year could we be earning on $13 million in the bank? So I feel like that argument is flawed on a dollar per user basis. And I'd like to see us consider the non-financial value of this asset and the social values that these sorts of activities bring.
Thank you, Councillor Davey. Would someone like to speak for the original recommendation? Would anyone like to speak? Sorry?
No.
Councillor Patrick? For or against? Councillor Patrick.
Yeah, so look, without the proposed amendment, I will speak against this motion. I totally agree we do need to make some tough decisions. I stand by what I said previously, that I don't believe I have enough information to make that tough decision one way or the other. So this is an asset that's going to need a lot of repairs, a lot of input, a lot of financial input in the immediate future. What I will say is if I'm still sitting in this chair in 12 months' time and there is no information coming forward from the Wellington District's Pony Club providing data to the administration of the utilisation of the land and what actually is, you know, yes, I appreciate there's history everywhere, you know, there's an old flax mill and all that stuff. If the land was being kept for the well-being of the community from a utilised resource, I would support that. If the land isn't being utilised, or if it's barely being utilised, then I will put this motion up in 12 months' time to readdress it to propose that land for sale. So it puts out there, from my perspective, I'll be voting against it, to allow time for the Wellington District's Pony Club to basically re-establish themselves or whatever it is that needs to happen, and demonstrate that there is a viable usage of that land. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Patrick. Anyone else like to speak to the motion? Well, councillors, we'll put that to vote. Oh, sorry, Councillor Mitchell. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll speak against. I think the discussion's been absolutely valuable and it's actually given ideas on other ways forward. I also believe that we can't manage, like our assets, it's not a case of what we could spend and then what we're not getting because we haven't utilised that asset. I think that's important to understand. We have substantial dollars, I know they're not enough, but we've got substantial dollars that council could direct officers to utilise to actually undertake this development of, for example, Victory Lane. Any other business would go to the bank, get a massive loan, get the job done, and then pay off their loan when they sell the asset. That's what happens. You buy a block, you build a house, you get a huge loan, and then you sell it and pay it off. That's good business. So I actually believe that that is what we should be doing more of. Some of these items coming up, I'm going to agree with, some I'm not. But this one, I think it needs to, I urge you all, I know what the vote's going to be, but I urge you all to vote against it because we need to hang on to this asset until we know more about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mitchell. Anyone else like to speak for or against? Councillor Bailey.
Through the chair, councillors, I'll be voting against this. I think that pause, like Councillor Patrick says, will determine whether the Wellington Pony Club are still in the game. And I believe we'll also look at the value of our sand, and that'll give us time to look at that. So I think there's a win-win situation. The sand is not where the Pony Club is, and we could take the sand from the other end of the property, which is 17 hectares, and we'd have an income for the people.
Thank you, Councillor Bailey. A question, Councillor Glover?
I'd like to speak against this motion.
You've already spoken. Do we?
No, I
Do we just hold it for a second? I'll just check
No,
that.
I think it was just the amendment that Councillor Glover spoke against.
Can you go back and then speak again?
That was to the amendment.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is not the amendment, this is
Good.
original.
Okay, Councillor Glover.
Thank you. I'm speaking against this motion as well. Councillors, when we sell an asset, we've sold an asset, we can't go back on that as well. And I firmly believe that in selling this asset, we're just looking at asset disposal and we are not looking at asset optimisation as what we set out to do in the original content or the original idea about what we were doing here. So I'm talking against it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Glover. I'll speak for the motion. I'll reiterate my words before. I won't go into detail of all of them, but we have more to do in asset optimisation, and part of that is building business cases, 1 for Victory Lane, 2 for the medical centre, and the only other way we have to fund that activity, which is badly needed, is either through a rates rise or through a reduction in expenditure. And so I urge councillors to make the brave decision to look at how we're going to move forward, because failure to move forward, as this recommendation proposes, means we stay the way we are. Having said that, I'll offer right of reply to Councillor Lindeman.
I thought that it was mine. Wow. Well, yes, I support this. Again, looking after the community and the things that they can use has to also be current. So we have a pump track, it gets used. You have a fun park, it gets used. You have equipment, it gets used. You have the BC Mitchell Sporting and Community Precinct, it gets used. On the weekend, there's literally hundreds of people up there on a weekend. So you're supplying the assets that people use, the rec centre. And we don't make money on the rec centre, but we provide it to look after our community. So I believe...
Continue,
yeah,
Councillor
she's right.
Lindeman.
I'm putting in new information so I can see it. So yes, she's right.
Thank you, Councillor Lindeman.
Anyway, yeah, okay, there you go.
Councillors, Councillor Glover, you wanted to speak?
I was just calling
Point
point
of
of
order.
order as Councillor Lindeman saw.
Okay. Councillor Lindeman, would you like to complete?
No, I think I was getting carried away.
Thank you, Councillor Lindeman. Okay, councillors, we'll put that to vote. Those in favour of the original recommendation,
Councillors Lindeman and President McCarthy.
and those against.
Councillors Bailey, Davey, Mitchell, Patrick and Glover.
Thank you, councillors. Which brings us to the third of the 5 notes that we're addressing sequentially. And the recommendation is that we commence the sale process for lot 21 Reserve Street in Donnybrook. And we'll just wait till Administrator Extraordinaire Sam Farquhar is ready for us. Thanks, Sam. So would councillors like to move the recommendation? Councillor Glover? And a seconder? Councillor Mitchell. Okay, Councillor Glover, would you like to speak to the recommendation?
Yeah, this is for the sale of lot 21 Reserve Street, Donnybrook. It's just a small piece of land that I believe the landowner who adjoins it is wishing to purchase. I also believe that there will be more detail about the infrastructure around that land and how it will occur, i.e. the footpath, etc., will be provided to us prior to actually going ahead with the sale.
I'm sorry, Councillor Glover, I missed that. Did you ask a question then, or just... No, okay, sorry. And Councillor Mitchell?
Yes, look, I agree with this. This was been mooted 9 years ago, 7 years ago. So, CEO, thank you for pushing this one along. There is shock horror council selling a footpath. Sure, it's an extra bit of land. It needs mowing, and if that... by selling that land and joining it to the adjoining title, you get a duplex and 2 more houses, great. And I do question how the price will be set for that, however, because it's only of value to one person. However, that's not going to be my issue. So, CEO and officers, I'm suggesting you might get the nod to go ahead with this one. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mitchell. Would anyone like to speak against the motion? Well, then we'll consider that carried. Moving on to item 4 in the original recommendation is to commence the sale process for lots 12, 102 and 13, 104 Trigwell Street East, Donnybrook, and liaise with the Trigwell family to identify an appropriate alternative memorial to honour Walter Twigwell. Would someone like to move the recommendation? Councillor Patrick, and seconded, Councillor Mitchell.
Oh, sorry. No.
And seconded, Councillor Glover. Councillor Patrick?
Thank you. Look, again, everyone around the table has previously already spoken around, not necessarily wanting to just sell assets. This is one that I think, acknowledging that it is there as a memorial park. I lived on Castle Road pretty much directly at the end of the alleyway at the end of this particular park. I've got 2 young kids and we spent a fair bit of time there. And pretty much in the year and a half that I lived at that address, I think we were the only people that I ever saw there. It's not an exaggeration. I literally lived at the end of the alleyway to this park and spent time there with the kids. The playground there is dilapidated. I hadn't seen, I'm not saying it's not utilised, hadn't seen it utilised at all during that year and a half that I lived on Castle Place. My understanding of how the Shire came about this land is that it was a requirement to be donated as part of a subdivision. So open space requirement as part of a subdivision of what was Castle Place. And so as was presented earlier on, more than happy for this to be sold and, would recommend that ideally in the future, the money that comes from this will end up being there to support open space or other recreational areas within the Shire.
Thank you, Councillor Patrick. Councillor Glover?
Thank you for that. I wasn't aware that that's how the land came about, was as just part of a subdivision, but thank you for that. Whilst I understand and respect the desire for people to want to keep the Walter Twigwell Park as a neighbourhood facility, however, I support the motion to sell. In making decisions for our Shire, we do need to consider not just one corner of our community, but the greater good for the greater number. That's our responsibility, I believe, as councillors. Yes, it's nice to have a park that's close by for a small number of local children, but as a councillor, I believe we need to balance our assets across the whole Shire. Our rates must remain affordable for all residents, not just a few, to benefit all residents and not just a few. Investing in a single small park for limited use does not, in my opinion, achieve that balance. The facilities at Walter Twigwell Park are ageing and if not replaced, will become unsafe. Replacing or upgrading them, however, will come at a cost that would be borne by the entire Shire. And I believe we must ask ourselves, is this the best use of limited funds when we already have and provide centralised modern facilities such as the Apple Fun Park, the pump track and even the tractor park? These facilities are safe, engaging and serve many more families. We are also looking to welcome more families into our Shire through new housing opportunities. And this not only grows our rate base, but ensures more people can live and thrive here too. And that's with selling the land that opens it up for housing. It's what I look at as a utilitarian type of approach, which is about the greater good for the greater number and making decisions that benefit the many and not just a few. I want to acknowledge the generosity that the contribution of the land and donating the land for community benefit. But at the time, also land values were not what they are today. And I believe it would have been back when it was the Donnybrook Road Board, and it was the Shire is a different entity today. We can and we should find ways to celebrate and honour the contribution without committing scarce resources to a facility that no longer serves the wider community, the wider needs of our community. So just in closing, there's also families who live nearby who I've been informed have been mowing the grass in the park recently, and I wish to thank you for them. Your efforts are recognised, but I have to reiterate that my role here is to look at the whole Shire to ensure fairness, safety and sustainability of all. And whilst I respect the history of the Walter Trigwell Park and the families who cared for it, we must make decisions for the whole Shire, not just one.
Councillor Glover, 2 minutes.
Pardon?
2 minutes.
2 minutes more? I've got one sentence. Can I just drag it out then? Now I've lost my spot. So the facilities are ageing, costly to replace and serve only a small number of families, while we already provide modern centralised playgrounds. Honouring history is important, but so is fairness and sustainability for the greater good for the greater number. I believe we can honour the past without sacrificing the future. For that reason, I'm going to support this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Glover. Councillor Mitchell, would you like to speak again? Oh, sorry, a question?
A question, if I may, and it'll be through you to the CEO. This land wasn't maybe, but it was donated as part of the subdivision of Castle Place, or there could have been a financial contribution that would have been quarantined into the open space account. How do we stand legally if we sell this property for the optimisation process rather than quarantining it into the open space recreation account?
Thank you, Councillor Mitchell. CEO.
Yeah, so look, I don't have a definitive response. My off-the-cuff response would be through the passage of time, given the fact this was a historical subdivision and either a parks contribution or payment in lieu. It's probably more of a, for the want of better terminology, a moral or an ethical sort of consideration as to whether you think those ties are still relevant and the reasons and the original purpose for the provision of that land still remains, and whether that's providing the intended recreation opportunity.
If I may I ask an additional question?
Yes, Councillor Mitchell.
The properties that are being put aside on Maldine for recreational open space, the subdivision are there. So obviously if that is the thought is it's historical, so should we be looking at maybe selling those off straight away, because this was definitely an open space at the time? Or do we need to consider that the open space at Maldine is a freehold asset that we'll be able to sell in the future?
Thank you, Councillor Councillor Mitchell.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm clear of I'm not sure whether it's a question or maybe a statement, but at the end of the day, it would have been a condition of that subdivision approval that there was some open recreation or parks recreation provided. So look, I don't want to step into the debate.
just-
Thank you.
Was that a question that we had at the agenda briefing, or is that?
Yeah, one more if I may. So basically you can actually do open space or an allocation of cash into the reserve for open space. Is that correct?
Just a moment, Councillor Mitchell. Councillor Mitchell, we can take it on notice, but we've had ample opportunity to raise these questions at workshops and at the agenda briefing last week. Can I ask councillors to consider that? We have the agenda briefing for a reason, and it's difficult to put our executive on point at the last minute when we're trying to debate the topic. Did you want to speak to the motion, Councillor Mitchell?
I would if it's my turn.
For or against?
For against.
Okay.
I will speak against, but I would also like to propose an amendment on an additional point, an amendment, and it may even be an alternative to this, if I may.
Have you put your amendment forward previously?
No, but not everybody does. So basically, it's a case
So
of...
we'll just have to get your wording.
Yes, thank you.
And are you set?
Yep. That funds on the sale commences the sale process and funds are quarantined in an account specifically for the development of open spaces. Quarantined in reserves, thank you. Maybe in reserves, yeah, account for reserves. Yes, thank you.
And would councillors like to second that amendment? No seconder?
Thank you.
Thank you, Anne. Councillor Mitchell. Now, would someone like to speak against the original motion? Councillor Davey.
Thank you. So we just looked at the code of conduct where it says to be open and accountable to and represent the community in the district. So I think considering the public submissions on this one is really important. To bring this high-level discussion to a human level, I've spoken to a resident who, when life was exceptionally overwhelming...
Sorry, Councillor Davey, I can't understand what you're saying. You need to move the microphone closer and,
Sure.
and perhaps speak a little more slowly.
Would you like me to start again from the
Yes,
beginning?
please.
Okay. Earlier in this meeting, we have touched on the code of conduct, which requires us to be open and accountable to and represent the community in the district. So I think considering the public submissions on this item is very important. To bring this high-level discussion to a human level, I've spoken to a resident recently, a single parent with a child with special needs, who found that when life was exceptionally overwhelming, this little quiet pocket park was where they could find a moment of peace and respite. I understand that public open space exists for many reasons, and the value of it is not simply in the playground infrastructure in the public open space. And if the public wants to retain this item, I'm happy to support that. We've now talked about that if the funds were meant to be available, the property was meant to be either for public open space or funds were meant to go to public open space. And if we sort of follow that, I know the amendment's been defeated, but if we follow that reasoning, then the business case for selling this to fund a master plan for an alternate location, which is not public open space, it weakens the original intent of putting this land aside in the first place, as well as Councillor Mitchell's point about it really opens up all the other subdivisions that have been done and the public open space that's been put aside in those. It really undermines the value of us putting aside public open space in the first place.
Thank you, Councillor Davey. Would someone like to speak for the motion? Against? Councillor Mitchell?
Yes, I think I understand and reading the room where this one's going to go. I'm totally against selling assets just to up the coffers. We need to you now need to cut the cloth to fit the business. This, as well as it may well be a good business decision, but yes, we can put money into studies. We put lots of money into studies. There is a mountain of money in asset replacement and in the account, and you can actually use that to fund the development of the other Victory Lane projects, etc. You can also ensure that you can actually mark assets as not for replacement. This is something that the accountant, the partner of our accounting firm, has said that you can do. You don't have to have money to replace everything. There'll be a debate later on in the confidential item where I'm sure this will come up.
Can we not mention the confidential items? Thanks.
I'm just saying there's a debate coming up, and it could well be that there could be some thought patterns around asset replacement and that we need to take alternative views for it. So I know where it's going, but I leave council with a saddened heart that we're selling off assets just to because we can't cut the cloth, and there is no need to have all the dollars in an account to cover the asset replacement. You just need a plan when they come due that you will what you'll do. So I urge you, but I read in what's happening, and it's a reason I'm not standing again. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mitchell. Would anyone like to speak for or against the recommendation? Okay, councillors, we'll put that to vote. Sorry, right of reply. I beg your pardon. To Councillor Patrick.
Look, thanks. I don't really have much more to say. I appreciate everybody's point of view on this one. It is a tricky one. Again, well, they all are. But yeah, look, from my perspective, it is one of those assets that does cost the Shire to maintain, would cost the Shire to continue to maintain and upgrade. If sold, would benefit the Shire and the community in relation to more residential housing, which then in turn relates to more rates, more people in town to spend money in local businesses, all those sorts of things. So I do see the benefit of commencing the sale process, and just flagging that that's all we're doing here is we're approving to commence the sale process. If we don't get any offers that the Shire's, or the council is comfortable with, then, it won't necessarily go through. But I believe that this one is a suitable lot to commence the sale process of. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Patrick. Councillors, we'll put that to vote. All those in favour?
Councillors McCarthy, Glover, Patrick and Lindeman and Bailey.
And those against?
Councillors Davey, Councillor Mitchell.
Thank you, councillors. That's carried. Okay, councillors, we move on to the last of the sequence, item 5. The recommendation is that we note the feedback on the proposed sale of lot 126 Yelverton Street and lot 189 Union Street, Donnybrook, and considers the conversion of the Crown land to freehold land as part of the next phase of the asset optimisation project. Would someone like to move that recommendation? Councillor Mitchell, and seconded Councillor Glover. Councillor Mitchell, would you like to speak to the recommendation?
Yes, I would. I initially put this one forward. I'm very, very aware of the shortage of accommodation, particularly for those working at Tui Lodge and the hospital who may be on visas, who have to rent. There's very little rents available, and I think it's a perfect opportunity for maybe a piece of land that is of no value being used. I understand there's drains and still there, but this is also notes the feedback. I also note that the feedback on this one wasn't as decisive as others, but it's something that I do believe that would be a great benefit if it could move forward.
Thank you, Councillor Mitchell. Councillor Glover?
Yes, I'm in favour of this one as well. I think it's a really good opportunity with the two blocks back to back. Great piece of land. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Glover. Would anyone like to speak against the motion? For the motion? Well, if we're not speaking against the motion, we'll consider that carried. Okay, that's the end of that one. Well done, councillors. Moving on to item 11, we have no new business of an urgent nature introduced by decision of the meeting, so that takes us on to item 12, where the meeting will be closed to the public. For those in the public gallery or those participating via live stream, we are now about to close the meeting, so we have to ask you to leave, and the only thing we will do when we reopen the meeting is to then close it. So what we do when we come back, though, is we do read the decisions that were made, and we've got, I think, 3 decisions to make in the confidential section. So other than reading those decisions out, we'll be closing the meeting when we come back. Would we be adjourning to do that? I will need to... Councillor Mitchell. So would councillors like to move to adjourn the meeting until 8 o'clock? Mover, Councillor Mitchell, seconder Councillor Lindeman. All in favour? Aye. Thank you. Sorry, would councillors also, I forgot, we have to move to close the meeting. Yeah, so Councillor Glover. We're getting tired. So we'll take it Mitchell and Lindeman. All in favour? Aye.
Just going to open it up. Are we back online, Chair? Right, so, Councillor, we're back online.
We have to read all this out.
You don't have to, but I think
I'll have to
think
come
you
over
normally do.
Yeah. Have you got the approved motions on the screen?
We'll pop it on the screen there.
Okay. So, the public readings of resolutions at 12.2.
That's not it, Sam. Sorry, just maybe just hang on for 1 second.
Yeah, we had that.
Yep.
We had a different resolution then.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
That's on the screen.
So 12.1, wasn't it? Oh, good.
Yeah,
Okay,
we'll
thanks.
Just regroup, yeah.
Oh, did you take out 2 instead of undo? Because I think you took out 2, didn't you? Well, no, back up. There.
Yeah, we're all getting tired, mate. You're right.
We are all tired. Okay. At 12.1, RFQ 349, Preston River pedestrian ramp. Councillors have approved the recommendation not to accept any of the quotations and to not direct funds away from Brockman Road and to request the CEO to investigate alternative solutions to meet the intent of the council plan, and for those alternative solutions and associated costings to be considered as part of the future budget process, the future budget process. And that was carried. Item 12.1.2, RFT 062425, Smith and Tim Street, Donnybrook Road upgrade. The council endorses a $240,000 increase to the existing 25-26 budget allocation of $215,000 for the Smith Street Donnybrook project. And 2, endorse the Chief Executive Officer to source the additional $245,000 from the Shire's current Roads to Recovery 5-year allocation from 1st of July 24 to 30th of June 2029 of $3,726,166 based on the future year project adjustments outlined in this report. And 3, notes and endorses that the funds as outlined in point 1, along with the existing 25-26 $263,000 budget allocation for Smith Street, North End, totalling $723,000, will be used to deliver the defined scope of works and optional extra to scope of works of RFT 062425. And 4, endorses the awarding of the contract RFT 062425 to Smith and Tim Street, Donnybrook Road upgrade to Sully Civil Proprietary Limited in accordance with their submitted offer for the defined scope of work and the optional extra 2 scope of works only. And lastly, 5, requests the Chief Executive Officer to undertake a review and prepare a revised Shire of Donnybrook Baling Up 6-year forward roadworks program, which incorporates the adjustments as outlined in this report and present to Council for endorsement at or before its March 26 Ordinary Council meeting. And finally, 12.1.3, Windy Arbour Proprietary Limited lease dispute. Council has endorsed number 1, that we note the update on the legal dispute with Windy Arbour and authorise the Chief Executive Officer to finalise the matter for the amount as detailed in the report. And 2, authorise the CEO and Shire President to execute any associated documents in order to finalise the lease agreement. So that takes us on to item 13, closure. And we can advise that the next agenda briefing session will be held on the 17th of September 2025 at 5 p.m. in the Shire of Donnybrook Baling Up Council Chamber. And I declare this meeting closed at 8:22 p.m. Thank you.